this morning. We do have Kentucky power crews in Florida, is what I'm hearing from our producers. Are we speaking with them, or is that, oh, we're getting a look here. 200 power crews. Of course, we're going to be without power, many of us, with the wind and rain in the area. And so these are crews from Kentucky, linemen that have made their way to Florida to help us out in the aftermath of this storm.
Spoke of community, right?
Yeah. Certainly need it here. And of course, they're stationed around the area. We've talked to Duke Energy earlier this morning as well. They have hundreds stationed around the area. You spoke with Tico earlier. Right. I know we showed video at one point, or at least we're talking with them. So many of us in the Tampa Bay area, obviously very familiar with Tropicana Field, where the Rays play, but that has been home to several linemen right now, too, from Duke Energy. People coming in from all over the place. So Duke Energy, also an outage map. We're getting the numbers there. I was just looking at Tico not long ago. Those numbers have been escalating, then dropping, which is
look at that right there.
Some good news. Where are we seeing?
So it looks like that Clearwater area there, about 1,000 people, but a little farther south along St. Pete Beach, 2,000 people. Between those two spaces, 522. Of course, these numbers are subject to change and not in the direction that we would like to have happen.
Yeah, and of course, we have not seen the brunt of this yet here. We're looking in the St. Pete area and above,
right
Clearwater, and obviously on the coast, they're certainly feeling the winds, the bands of this, but the worst of this is yet to come. Grant telling us not long ago that the condition for Tampa Bay will deteriorate into this afternoon and the overnight hours as well. So we're waiting on that. I was saying at Tico numbers a little bit earlier too. That was at about 4,400 outages, varying. So we'll keep an eye on those outages, and I know they're working to get you back, the lights back on for you too, as quickly as they can. Was it Jenny Dean?
Yeah, Jenny Dean in Tampa. She's got an update for us. Let's take a look.
I'm Jenny Dean in downtown Tampa. Right now, conditions not too bad. It has been changing. Every now and then we'll get a fairly gusty wind, kind of like right now. It's picking up just a little bit. We'll get a decent rain band come through, and then it will calm way down again. And I can kind of give you an idea. This is channel side behind me, and then I can kind of go around and you can see the cruise port area of Port Tampa Bay there. And that is where the cruise ships usually pull in. Now, I can tell because I was looking yesterday that the water level over there is a little bit lower than it was yesterday around this time. So definitely hearing and seeing the reports of water being sucked out of the bay and Bayshore. So certainly conditions okay here in downtown. I've been down to street level. People are out and about walking around. So nothing too serious here in downtown, but we are keeping an eye on conditions and watching out for more winds and possible rain bands that could come through. For now, in Tampa, Jenny Dean, Tampa Bay.
Different situation there farther south, though.
It sure is. And again, a reminder that Tampa Bay is by no means out of the woods either. We're going to see conditions deteriorate throughout this area throughout the afternoon and into the evening hours as well. Our meteorologist tracking all of that for you. Let's take you to some video down in Sarasota, though, which is really getting the brunt of this storm right now, seeing those wind gusts. We've had our crews live throughout this morning.
That is not a creek.
Yeah.
Well, it is now.
It is now. It certainly is now. Is this Bee Ridge Road here? Yep, Bee Ridge Road on the screen for Sarasota. Certainly looks much more like a river this morning.
You can imagine the panic for the folks who actually live in those homes that were panning around right there, because they have no idea how high that may rise.
Right, and it's actually kind of eerie even to see the trees, because you don't see them, bending over just right now. We talked with Jennifer Titus a little bit earlier, who really was getting blown around in the wind in the Sarasota area too. So she's near Venice this morning. We talked to Miguel Octavio as well too. So they're really monitoring the conditions in that area for you. Again, we are here for you, giving you images here a little bit more. This is another Sarasota look for you today. This is a lovely Lanai getting blown right now in the wind. It's unbelievable video as this storm approaches. The eye wall approaching our area, and just the wrath that it's bringing with it today.
Yeah.
Of course, that pool could very well be flooded at some point.
Absolutely, and as we talk about these power outages that are really, imminent at this point, a good time to download that free 10 Tampa Bay app, because you know we have your back here. Right? You mentioned community for good reason. Make sure that we are checking on one another. But this is a way for you to stay up to date with what's going on if, in fact, you lose power, because you can still stream our newscast live with that app.
Right, and we are up and down the coast. So let's take you back to Tampa. CBS's David Begnaud has been monitoring the evacuations there.
This is Glenn Josephic. He decided late Tuesday that it was time for him, his wife Holly, and their 2 young children, Jet and Isaac, to pack up. They're headed to stay with friends further inland.
The storm decides it's going to shift west again, right? Then we're kind of in the worst path.
The house right across from the Josephics is on the water. So whatever the storm's final path is, he says his family and the home could be in danger.
So the storm goes there, it still all comes through Tampa.
Yeah, our biggest concern was the surge. We have 2 young kids, right? And that's the main reason why we're leaving.
Just trying to calculate the best time to leave.
Gil Gonzalez and his neighbors have already boarded up their homes with plywood. He takes care of his elderly parents, and they've already fled to higher ground.
We got sandbags and all kinds of anti-flooding devices.
Gonzalez and his family aren't alone.
We don't know how bad it's gonna get.
Some 2.5 million people are under evacuation orders up and down the state of Florida. Hotels in West Palm Beach on the eastern side of the state are already filling up with residents, hoping to escape Ian's projected path.
As of right now, they're just mandatory evacuations.
We rode along with Sheriff's Deputy Amanda Calderon through Hillsborough County. That's where Tampa is. She took us through parts of the county where everyone has been ordered to evacuate, but she can't force them to. If they stay, she has been telling them that emergency response service could be limited.
At what point do you stop responding in a storm?
If it becomes a danger to us, they don't want to risk us getting hurt out there.
Still, some people are ignoring the order, and they're going to ride it out, but not the Josephics.
It's the right thing to do when you have kids. If we didn't have kids, maybe not. It's too much work.
David Begnaud, CBS News.
All right, I'll look at them staying safe there. We're going to get out to Malik Rankin now. She's at the Tampa EOC. We have a news conference coming up at 11:30 this morning. She's anticipating that.
We're just off of Bayshore Boulevard here in Tampa. These conditions, we're seeing the wind pick up and settle, rain consistent through this area. And take a look at the water just sucked out of the bay here. I was talking with our photographer. She told me the last time she saw conditions looking like this in the bay was during Hurricane Irma. Now in this area, there's still some traffic going by on the streets here. We're not far from TGH Hospital. There's also pedestrians still making their way through this area. Now, we're awaiting a press conference at 11:30. That's the next time you'll hear from us with Mayor Jane Castor, the fire chief, the police chief. They're briefing for that right now, putting their heads together, assessing the best plan for responding to this storm. We've got all of them in the Tampa Emergency Operations Center, where they'll be adjusting their plans, consistently looking at how this storm is moving, how it's changing, and how it's impacting residents in this area. We'll be hearing more from them briefly, but for now, in Tampa, Malik Rankin, 10 Tampa Bay.
Right, about 8 minutes out from that update, but we want to get to Grant Gilmore because, Grant, normally we are looking at the maps that have some graphics there, but you've got some pictures for us.
Well, I'll tell you, Frank, I mean, just what Malik was talking about, it's incredible to see all this water literally being sucked or blown out of the bay. Let me show you why here. Look at these wind speeds. Sustained winds in St. Pete, so that's at Albert Whitted Airport. Sustained winds at 43 miles per hour. That's tropical storm force. Wind gusts up to 58 miles per hour. Typically, that would be a severe thunderstorm warning. And we're seeing that all coming in out of the northeast. It's lining up parallel with the bay, and it's sucking the water, not just out of the bay, guys, but out of the Hillsborough River. All right, we'll get to that in just a second. So this is kind of where the Hillsborough River comes into and comes out into the bay, right downtown Tampa. There's TGH right there. There's the convention center. Usually you got the pirate ship right there at the dock. Look at this. Look at the bay. Look at those islands. That's the bottom of the bay. That's the bay floor. All this water has been blown out into the Gulf of Mexico. So it's going somewhere. It's going down to southwest Florida, down towards Fort Myers, where the surge is building up to potentially 16 to 18 feet. Tyler Moore over there manning the camera. Tyler, are we able to zoom up a little bit more, or is that as far as we can go? if you, and Malik was right over here. Malik was right over here where she was showing you her vantage point. But look at that island. And then when we come back over here, Tyler, let's go up into the river a little bit. Let's zoom down. Let's go down to where that bridge is. There you go. Look at that right there by the dock. Right there at the beginning of Bayshore. You've got that water. So that's land. That is land where you typically have the river coming out into the bay. That is incredible. Yeah. Again, we've been talking about this. This is the antithesis. Yes. Of what we're worried about, it's I mean, all along there. That is all land. All land. All that water is being blown out. It's draining the bay. Let's go to Armature Works. This is our weather camera at Armature Works. Let me see if I can switch over to it here. Look at this. Armature Works over there. This is a river, guys. This is a river. And the water is being sucked out of the river faster than the river can flow to fill it back up. So now you have land. You have, that's where you would typically see, people kayaking, right? Down there on their paddle boards. And now you've got land. It's where we've had our boat parades after our multiple championships. And look at that. That is incredible.
You saw the images down in Venice. That's the opposite there, right?
Exactly right. Exactly right. The exact opposite. We have winds out of the northeast here in Tampa Bay. Meanwhile, you have southwesterly winds blowing all the water that is, leaving our bay and going into their coast. Just absolutely astounding, the force of nature. Yeah, Tyler, zoom in there. Look at that.
Hey, Grant, especially for the people who are newer to the area who have not seen this before. This will quickly rush back, though, right?
Well, maybe not as quick as you might think. As long as the storm stays to our southeast, our winds will stay out of the northeast, which means this will just continue to drain. We're kind of near low tide. We're coming off of low tide, so it's low anyway, except for the river. The river doesn't really have much of a tide this high up. But we'll start to see the water levels rise. So yes, it will rise, but it may not be quite as quick as it drained, just because of the fact that the wind speeds are forcing this and blowing it out. Gosh, we could look at this all day, couldn't we?
We got a timestamp there because I know you'll show the opposite a little bit later.
We will. We have a news conference that we have to get to at 11:30, right?
Right.
That's what we got. So we got 4 more minutes. Tyler, let's do a quick tour of the radar. Let's show people what's going on around the area, because I know it's not just this. This is fascinating to look at, but this is what you're getting impacts with here. Let's do a zoom. Let's zoom down into the Bay Area, show you some of these rain bands that are spinning through. Within these rain bands, guys, this is where we're getting into those really strong gusts. We're seeing 50 to 60 mile per hour gusts, if not stronger than that, within some of those bands. I can only show you what the weather stations are reporting, so we can only estimate that within some of these bands heading up through southeastern Hillsborough County, you're seeing those potentially damaging winds, all right? A severe thunderstorm warning is issued when wind speeds are at 58 miles per hour or stronger. We've got gusts at 60, so anywhere within this, you have to treat this almost like a severe thunderstorm warning, right? Because all of these gusts are coming through. It could take down branches, and ultimately branches could take out some power. So we're going to have to start checking the power situation around the area with some of these wind gusts that are beginning to pick up within some of those bands. There's that 58 mile per hour wind gust in St. Pete, Tampa International Airport right there at 31. You head down towards Venice, sustained winds. They are very close to the eye wall as it's starting to move in from the south and to the east. We also have an extreme wind warning down in Lee County right now. There's that extreme wind warning. This is almost like a large tornado warning. So it's really the western half of Lee County. There's the eye wall right now. That's where we have the sustained winds with Hurricane Ian that are upwards of 150 to 155 miles per hour. Wind gusts are exceeding 170 miles per hour in some places. And then outward from that eye wall, you have those emanating bands, that within those bands you have the pelting rain, the damaging wind speeds, and then of course the accumulating rain that's going to result in the flash flooding concern that we'll see likely arrive as we go through the afternoon into the evening hours. Let's continue to zoom out, Tyler. I want to show more of the immediate 10 Tampa Bay viewing area. Sarasota County, a lot of gusty conditions embedded within some of those rain bands that are sort of merging over the county right now. And then out towards Arcadia, Zolfo Springs, just starting to see a couple of rounds of those gusty winds with those bands. Duet, you're seeing several rounds of that as well. Bradenton really into it. Downtown St. Petersburg, I really expect for you to begin to see more persistent wind gusts as well. So now's the time, if you still have power, we've been talking about this, now's the time, make sure you have all your electrical devices powered up, because this is the type of conditions where we could start to lose power, and it's just a question of how quickly we'll be able to get that power back on. I think we're going to go over to Mayor Jane Castor now for a news conference from downtown Tampa, I believe, coming up here soon, as we begin to see the effects and look at how we're going to be ready to face the second half of the day and really the rest of the worst of Hurricane Ian. So let me step out of here, guys. Are we still going to go out to Castor, or we're gonna keep talking here first? Okay. Let's go back to the radar, Tyler. I think just showing the current conditions, because we're mentioning how those wind speeds are going to be increasing. This is for St. Pete. We're right there on the cusp between tropical storm force to hurricane force winds. It looks like there's a good possibility we could start to see some of those hurricane force winds arrive as we go into the afternoon hours. All right. Mayor Jane Castor, standing by here for, we'll listen in.
Fortunate to be talking about tropical storm or Category 1 winds and flooding as being fortunate in our area, but that's the reality of it. So we have talked, I personally have talked with the mayors south of us that are going to feel the wrath of Hurricane Ian, and also they're going to go through this storm without the preparation time that we were able to have here in Tampa Bay. So I've spoken to the mayor of Fort Myers, Sarasota, Punta Gorda, and Naples, offered them clearly our best wishes and then any resources that we have that we could send their way. The message that I want to share with our community, not only in the city of Tampa, but throughout the Tampa Bay area, is that we're not out of the woods yet. You know, it may be calm outside. We've seen the waters recede in Tampa Bay. Some people are out taking the photographs along Bayshore, but that is the calm before the storm, because we're still going to see, more than likely, unprecedented flooding in our area, with 18 to 20 inches of rainwater coming in later this evening. And we're also going to have tropical storm force winds and possibly Category 1 hurricane winds here in the Tampa Bay area. So we're going to see downed trees, we're going to see flooding, we're going to see power outages. So please, please do not let your guard down now. Let's remain vigilant. Hurricane Ian is going to visit the Tampa Bay area later this evening, and we will keep you posted as we go through the day. We are continuing with our services, providing anything that our community needs. If there is information that you need, please go to our website, tampagov.net/hurricane. All the information is there. We also have the hotlines. Our call center is up and running. So we are still here for you and your needs. But again, those who have left the Zone A, please do not go back. This is not over. And then those who haven't left, we're still looking at flooding. So please heed the warnings and everybody be safe out there. Now I'd like to call up our Fire Chief and Emergency Manager, Barbara Tripp.
Good morning. Fire Chief Barbara Tripp, Tampa Fire Rescue Emergency Management. As the mayor has stated, we're still not out of the woods. Just a couple of safety things that I would like to talk about as we prepare for the post of the storm. Currently, we do have some weather stations that's located throughout the city of Tampa. And what happened with those weather stations, we are advised of the wind gusts. So in case of an emergency, first responders would not be able to respond once those wind gusts get up to a certain miles per hour. So we're asking you all to please remain off the streets, stay safe, because you would not be able to get emergency services to you for the safety of you as well as our public safety first responders. We also want to talk about generators. As we know, usually whenever a storm comes through, we will possibly have power outage. In a situation like that, a lot of families have generators. Generators should be operated outside of your home, not inside, and it should not be started until after the storm is over. If you have any questions or need additional information about the safety of generators, please visit tampa.gov/hurricane. That's tampa.gov/hurricane to get additional information. Now, because you don't have any power, a lot of families might light candles. Once again, that is a safety hazard. So you need to be extremely cautious if you decide to use candles. If you have a fire extinguisher, please make sure that is at hand, make sure it's available for you. Don't go out in the weather to get a fire extinguisher. So if you have one, make sure you have one handy and make sure you use it appropriately. Once again, if you have any questions about emergency services, please visit tampa.gov/hurricane. Now I bring up the Police Chief, Mary O'Connor.
Thank you, Chief Tripp, Mayor Castor. Good afternoon, everybody. Just a couple of things. I just want to reiterate what has already been said, that we are not out of the woods. We are going to see some significant flooding in the Tampa Bay area. As far as vehicles are concerned, I really strongly recommend that our residents try not to take your vehicles out and venture out. We need our officers and our first responders being available and ready to assist our residents in time of crisis and not get stuck in water. It only takes 6 inches of water to reach the bottom of most vehicles. So if you are driving around in 6 inches of water or more, you may get stuck, and then we may have to come and help you out. Our shelters are still open. There are numerous shelters located throughout Hillsborough County. Tampa PD has been actively shuttling numerous homeless individuals to shelters this morning. Shelters are still open, but residents are encouraged at some point, once the wind speeds do reach higher gusts, as we are expecting they will at some point today, to just stay and shelter in place. Last thing I just want to mention, as I talked about yesterday with the enhanced property crime penalties, in the event you are charged with a burglary or a theft, if it's a second-degree felony, it'll be increased to a first degree. If it's a third-degree felony, it'll be increased to a second. Tampa PD did make 2 arrests last night. We responded to the IKEA off of Adamo Drive to an alarm call, and we did locate 2 individuals in the parking lot that were loitering in the parking lot. They had numerous burglary tools in their possession, walkie-talkies, flashlights. It appeared they were definitely planning on doing something at the IKEA. They were charged accordingly. So I just want to reiterate that, property crimes are serious. Do not even think of, preying on the vulnerability of our residents that may have evacuated. Tampa PD is here, ready and willing to assist if anybody needs it. Thank you, everybody.
All right, does anybody have any questions? All good? All right, thank you all. Much appreciated.
Tampa, both the fire chief, police chief, and of course Mayor Castor there holding down the fort and saying what we've been reiterating is that it may seem like good news in Tampa right now and all calm and water being sucked out of the Hillsborough River, which is completely the antithesis of what we initially thought would be the case, but not out of the woods. Things are going to deteriorate throughout the day, and so heed the warnings there. Stay home if you can. Stay off the roads, as you just heard them say. Those roadways are for our first responders right now. As long as they can get out, as long as those wind gusts allow them to get out, they want to be able to respond to people in need. And again, just 6 inches of water on the roadway is all it takes.
Much. Yeah, and she also said this: unprecedented flooding. That is what she is expecting. Something that's disappointing. We both shook our heads, right? As if it's not enough to watch out for this storm, watch what's ahead of you. You got to watch your back.
Yeah.
They made some arrests, and they're not playing around with this stuff right here.
Right, 2 people outside of IKEA, she was saying, loitering with burglary tools at the time. So just going to update those charges, not the time to mess around. It sounds like, say that again, McDill
Look at the
this
cloud
morning,
right there, Caitlin.
Unbelievable, yeah. successfully evacuated everyone from the base. With that said, everyone will feel the effects of this storm. Just reiterating that again, what your officials just said out of Tampa, although you may still face high winds and rain, most of the destruction is caused by the storm surge. We've been saying that as well. Our meteorologists have been saying that as well. Want to stay off those roadways and be advised this water is nothing to contend with. Certainly can be a complete disaster out there. Grant is monitoring our conditions. Sure. And Grant, what are you tracking right now? What area are you focused on?
Guys, we're just getting information here that it sounds like we've just got a tornado warning that just came down. So stand by for 1 second. Let me pull this up. And it looks like the tornado warning is going to be for Hardee, DeSoto, and Highlands County. So this just in. Let me come over so I can show it to you now. Tyler's going to run the radar for me. So tornado warning just coming down for, yes, DeSoto, Hardee, and Highlands County until 12:15. So it is 11:40 right now. We'll watch this all the way through. We'll see how long it stands. But tornado warning, so the cell that likely has this tornado, or at least the threat for a tornado, is just moving west of Lake Placid, all right? So it's right there through western Highlands County, moving into Hardee and DeSoto. Tyler, let's go right down there. Let's go to street level, and let's give people an idea of where this potential tornado could be. We're looking at this couplet here. Red hues are winds that are moving away from the radar. Green hues are winds that are moving towards the radar. So right in this area right there, that's right where we have that threat. It's a tiny little couplet. This isn't like those big EF3, EF4s. I know we're thinking grand here and big scale because of this is a massive hurricane, but typically with hurricanes, they produce these tiny little small quick spin-up tornadoes. They can still produce EF1, EF2 damage, but still, they're relatively short-lived. They come down with some ferocity, and they come right back up pretty quickly as well. So a relatively low-populated area, but certainly still, look, we got to let everybody know about this threat of this potential tornado. So moving to the northwest, I'm going to guess it's probably moving somewhere around 30 to 35 miles per hour. Chris, do we have any specs on the movement speed of this cell within northwest at 45? Let's get a tracker on this here. So northwest at 45 miles per hour within this band. All right. So this is a tornado, a threat of a tornado embedded within a larger band of Hurricane Ian. The band itself is producing wind gusts up there to 40 to 60 miles per hour. This potential tornado within that band is moving by itself around 45 miles per hour. And we're looking at some ETAs at Sweetwater Church. If you're familiar with the Sweetwater Church area there, just south of Zolfo Elementary as well. Zolfo Elementary probably looking at arriving around 12:04, and then Zolfo Springs around 12:05. So just some ETAs. It's time. Anytime these bands are coming through, probably a good idea to get into your safe place, right? And then with this tornado warning specifically in this area of western Highlands County into southeastern Hardee County and northeastern DeSoto County. Want to make sure you get into your safe place. Now, looking at the different, the relative vorticity compared with just the velocity there, we've got, it's really hard to pick out there. Maybe a little bit of that couplet right there, kind of looking at the general spin that might be in that area. It's really not well defined at all, but it's enough to where we could get a quick spin up with this, tracking up to the north and west a little bit. Let's try to zoom out just a little bit, Tyler, get a little bit better perspective for where we're working with. There's Wauchula, just north of 17 South there, and this is the area that we could see that tornado. It's now moving into southern Hardee County right now. And again, this tornado warning is going to extend all the way up into the Wauchula area, where we expect the threat to likely dissipate by around 12:15 or so. Again, this is all part of the larger rain band associated with Hurricane Ian that's beginning to move ashore over southwestern Florida as we speak. If we zoom out a bit, there we go. That's fine. We'll show the tornado watch. And this is right in that watch area of the tornado. And again, this is all still in that front right quadrant, right? We talk about that front right quadrant for being that area for the greatest risk for the strongest winds, that tornado threat, the greatest surge threat as well. And it's actually relatively ironic. We were just saying we haven't seen a lot of these tornado warnings yet today. And then almost as soon as you mention it, they start sparking up. But even outside of this tornado warning, guys, anywhere within here, we could still see the potential for some damaging winds here. We've seen wind gusts. We've measured wind gusts in Sarasota, even up in the St. Pete, with wind gusts between 50 to 60 miles per hour plus. But this, at least for our area, the first tornado warning that we've seen for the day. And this whole band right here, this is likely going to continue to pivot itself, right? So it's going to continue to spin and ride along that general periphery. So it'll likely continue into northwestern Hardee County. Duet, you very well could be in line, maybe not necessarily the tornado threat, but that same band that may be producing that tornado right now. So it'll also continue up to the north and west, and then ultimately start to move into the immediate Tampa Bay area. Tyler, I need to grab a quick drink of water here real quick, and I'll come over there and I'll man the radar and let you take over.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things you got to watch carefully, right? Because things change quickly. It pops up quickly, and it could move out quickly too.
And like you've mentioned multiple times today, you know, with a lot of these tornado warnings, they're pretty short-lived. Once as you see on the radar a little bit of rotation, the dynamics change really quickly, and then it fizzles out. So we're just watching a couple of these stronger storms. I want you to notice on the radar, this is really the only area that you're seeing a little bit of that red showing up on the radar. So that's indicative of a storm that's a little bit stronger than the rest. It's got a little bit heavier rainfall. It might have some stronger updrafts, and sometimes when you get stronger updrafts, you can get a little bit of that rotation that's near the surface just because you have such a strong wind field that's already rotating. You can get some of that rotation into the updraft here, and that's why you're seeing that we do have the tornado warning there, because there is just enough rotation on the radar. This is not a confirmed tornado. It's just radar indicated, saying, hey, there is the potential there for just a little bit of rotation to produce a minor tornado, hopefully at least a minor tornado if there is one there. They tend to be on the weaker side when you're dealing with tropical storms, but again, we're just going to watch this carefully. It does have a longer lifespan. We're talking about 30 minutes or so since it was issued. That will expire at 12:15. So again, this is hugging right along the line right there of Hardee and DeSoto County. You can see it right there along the lines. As yes, thanks Grant for zooming in there. You can see some of the highways here. You got Highway 66 right here for reference. There again is Wauchula. You're going to see the chance for this to try to push up into the Wauchula area, although I do think kind of right here is where we're looking at that center of circulation right in here. Right in those reds is where we'll likely see a little bit just to the south of Cruzville there along Highway 66. Not a lot of towns right in this area, which is the good news, right? We love to see tornado warnings in areas where maybe there's just some forest or some wetlands, but unfortunately this is moving to an area off towards Moffett and Wauchula that eventually could be dealing with some of this rotation, because it does look like it could hold together a little bit more as it lifts off to the north and west there. And we look at some of the rotation, there's just not a strong couplet, but the radar site is all the way back over into Tampa. And so when we talk about where this is, here you can see right here is where the radar site is, just near the Tampa Bay area. So it's shooting all the way out to the radar site here, and that's why, you know, when we look at the distance that we're heading here, about 50 miles or so, it gets higher up in elevation. There's a slight scan level with the radar. So as it goes higher up and further out, you're looking higher up. So sometimes you can overshoot where some of that low-level rotation is, but there is just enough right in here to indicate the potential for the possibility for a weak tornado to spin up in that area. So again, if we're looking a little bit closer to home, you can see this is not including the Sebring Lake Placid area. We're looking just to the south of Cruzville right there. There is that polygon right there. So if you live in this area, obviously you're already hunkered down for the day, but maybe put a couple extra walls in between you and the outside. Maybe you're just relaxing in your living room. Tune your volume up on the TV if you live in this area, and maybe head towards the bathroom. Interior rooms, not a bad idea to bring a blanket, maybe some pillows just to keep yourself safe, because this is a tornado warning and we do want to take that seriously, right? You already got gusty winds close to 50 to 60 miles per hour outside. You don't want a tornado that has winds close to 90 to maybe 100 miles per hour to produce more damage, and you're not prepared for it. So we have this lead time for this tornado warning. So if you live towards Wauchula, again, closer towards Highway 17, a good idea, right? Just take the precautions like you took the precautions for this system, Hurricane Ian, do the same precautions for this tornado warning that we have out there that, again, continues for about 25 minutes more or so, and then it will eventually expire at that point, hopefully, as long as the rotation starts to fall apart. But you can see, again, some of those reds right in here. That's where some of that rotation would be as it's starting to enter the Wauchula area there. So we're going to continue to track this off to the north and west. You can see if it does hold together, I do think, like Grant mentioned, it's going to pivot a little bit more, so it could be looking closer towards the Manatee and Hillsborough County line here if it eventually does hold together towards Duet. And then maybe if it pinwheels in, we could be looking at some of that rotation getting into some more densely populated areas towards parts of Hillsborough and Manatee County there. But as of right now, that rotation is going to continue to progress further and further off to the northwest. You can see this band kind of extends all the way from over here towards Bradenton, Sarasota, and then tracks all the way off to the east. Anywhere in there, you could see some of that rotation. If you think about where the center of the storm is, kind of down to the south, this area over here is in that right front quadrant. So here's the center of the storm right here. So if you shoot a line kind of up in here, because it's dependent on the storm motion. So the storm motion's a little bit off to the east, so we'll put a line, say, like right around here, and then a line that cuts through the storm through the middle, and you're talking about this general area in here for the potential for that isolated tornado threat. So here we go. Here's the front quadrant. As the center of the storm passes off to through our area, really, but passes towards places like Polk County, to the right of that is where the greatest chance is for an isolated tornado. That's due to the rotation of the storm and the friction that we have at the surface. You can get some rotation that starts to get going. Again, it gets sucked in the updraft of some of those stronger storms, and that's when you can see that isolated tornado threat. So again, center is going to work right along this line. Anywhere on the north and east side of that line, you're going to see the chance for that isolated tornado. And we've been expecting to see a couple of these. They've been mainly down towards South Florida. I think so far there was reports of 10 tornadoes, mainly earlier this morning with some of those outer rain bands towards places like the Miami metro area and Broward County, those locations. Here's some of those storm reports from earlier towards West Palm Beach, all the way down towards parts of the Everglades too. But again, really hugging mainly only over towards the eastern side of the state. The western side, we really haven't seen that many tornado reports. It's been more wind gust reports, more in the tropical storm strength so far until that eye wall approaches. But we will still keep an eye on that tornado warning as still ongoing right now. So we're going to look in. Grant, maybe again if we can look at some of the rotation, see how it's looking down there.
Zooming in here, and I'll switch over to the velocity to try to see what that spin is. Looking at it, it doesn't look like it's necessarily weakening. There's a little bit of still that possible rotation, right? There's a couple of spots.
Yeah, I was going to mention there's one right here, and then there's kind of the original area that we're working in here, maybe a small one right over there. So if you want to step in here, Grant, go ahead and point a couple of those out.
Well, I mean, this one right here, this is the second one. So this is kind of redeveloping another area of spin right there and sort of a dissipating area where we still might see some rotation back off towards the east. But I mean, overall, this whole area is going to be sort of with the potential for that little spin. But this one, honestly, Tyler, I don't know what you think, but this one looks a little bit more impressive than even the initial couplet that we were looking at that actually spawned the tornado warning in the first place. So this one is sort of dying down right now. It's a little bit there. It might be there, like you were mentioning, maybe overshooting maybe that lower level circulation with that brief tornado. But here we go. I mean, it's starting to develop. We'll wait for the next scan to see if it comes through. Same area, western Highlands County, southern Hardee County, northeastern DeSoto County. A tornado warning in effect until 12:15. So you've prepped for this. You've been getting ready for the approach of the hurricane. Well, now we've got a tornado warning in effect for your area, and it's time to get inside and get to that safe place, right? And make sure you stay there until this threat has cleared back out. New scan comes in. It's not textbook by any means, but you're still within these rain bands. You get some funky stuff going on. You get some weird developments, you get some weird spin, but this is the area right there. Look at that. I mean, you can kind of see the more almost like reddish hues starting to push away. The wind speeds are moving away, and then those green hues are the wind speeds that are moving toward that radar site, which is actually way over in Ruskin, right? What is that, like 50 miles away? Big picture here showing you what we're working with. So we're showing you the velocity mode, what the radar is doing here. The radar is sending out its signal. and it's waiting for there to be an echo, if you will, and it hits that rain droplet, and the radar pulse comes back to the radar site. So depending on the time that it takes to get back to the radar site for it to hear it, if you will, that helps determine how quickly that raindrop is moving. How fast is the wind making that raindrop move? And that's ultimately, in a matter of so many respects, how the radar is able to tell what direction at what speed the rain is moving. So this is showing you the reflectivity or the rain there, not necessarily the wind speeds, but you can still generally see the motion of that cell embedded within this rain band. This is one of the rain bands associated with Ian, moving up to the northwest. Now, this actual cell itself, or these cells, because now we're looking at two areas that might have that spin to produce that tornado, is moving about 45 miles per hour. And then within that, we're also finding some of those wind gusts up around 60 miles per hour as well. And this is a loop over just the last, I think, is it just the last hour that we were looping there? I mean, that's 1 hour, all that rain moving around in that area. So a really fast-moving system right there. As with any tornado warning, there's no difference here than just because it's a tropical tornado warning. You get to your safe place. You got a tornado warning in effect for your area. You need to make sure you get to that safe place and just ride it out. Just hang out, ride it out. Turn up the TV. If you're watching us on TV, just turn up the volume a little bit. Click, 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 click. Let it go up. You can hear us. We'll let you know when it's time to clear out, when that tornado warning is finished. And then you'll be able to go back and just keep watching the storm with us. But the most important thing is that you stay safe. You don't want to be near any windows. You don't want to be near any of those outside walls. If some of those tornadic winds start blowing stuff into your house, you don't want to be near that wall, closer to where some of that danger is actually located.
That latest scan right there looks a little bit more like there's potential for rotation. You can kind of see this in here.
Yeah, you're definitely right. You got that little bit of a hooking, and then there on the southern side of it, potentially that wind that's rotating up into that tornado right there. You're right about that. What's the velocity show with that? Is that signature? Yeah, maybe right in there a little bit. I mean, that was the area that we were just watching in Highlands, but the radar signature is suggesting maybe somewhere in maybe this right here. Yeah, that might be a little bit of that hook that's starting to develop on that reflectivity that might be producing that tornado. That looks like that's the same scan from before. So this is just south of Cruzville. Let's zoom down a little bit, see if we can find some more streets to try to point out exactly where this is. A relatively unpopulated area. It looks like we're not going to get much, but this is just south of 66 right now. And this is in southeastern Hardee County. Again, tornado warning in effect for DeSoto, Hardee, and Highlands County.
Let me put another tracker on it, Grant, and
see
if we can.
Yeah, we'll be able to put the storm tracker on. And the great thing about the storm tracker is we're able to take the current location of the danger and then estimate where it will be into the future. So going out about the next 20 minutes or so, this area, which really hasn't shown much signs of dissipation, if anything, it's been strengthening a little bit. It'll be in the Sweetwater Church area by around 12:03, Zolfo Elementary School around 12:14, and looking like Zolfo Springs itself around 12:15 or so, maybe a little bit sooner than that. But the Florida Hospital in Wauchula, hopefully by that point we can get this thing to dissipate. It won't be a threat to the hospital, but by around 12:18, we could see this area of potential tornado. There's nothing confirmed at this point. We call this a radar indicated tornado, but this is one of those things where we try to stay ahead of it, right? We've been talking about this all morning, from preparing, from evacuating, always trying to stay one step ahead of Ian, and in this case, this is what the warning is for, to try to stay one step ahead of this tornadic threat as it moves now across southern Hardee County, moving to the northwest at a pretty good pace. 45 miles per hour is pretty fast. Typically, when we track these things, we might say they're moving around 15 to 20 miles per hour, but moving at 45 miles per hour is pretty quick, so it's going to move up on you pretty quickly. Even without the tornado threat, there's still going to be that threat for some pretty strong wind gusts that might even rival a severe thunderstorm warning, where you're talking about wind speeds of 50 to 60 miles per hour. That can certainly take down some branches, and even with our saturated ground, could even knock over some trees, and that would have the same effect as knocking down some limbs in the tree, because ultimately those trees and the root system could fall onto homes, power lines, knock out power. And that's the ultimate concern there is when does the weather then begin to impact you or potentially hurt you? And so this is where we really have to be careful, make sure we get away from those potential threats. Tyler, let's zoom out again real quick. Let's take a look at the bigger area here just to make sure. I've heard a couple of other alerts coming in. I don't think we have any more tornado warnings to pass along, but still, certainly several areas dealing with those tropical storm or even hurricane conditions. Looking at eastern Sarasota County, that band right there certainly probably has some potential to produce some damage as well. In fact, Tyler, let's zoom in on this area right here, right in northwestern DeSoto County and kind of eastern Manatee County. Also a relatively unpopulated area, but if we just pause it here, I'd be interested to see what the velocity looks like in there too. Yeah, not much showing up there, but these are all different areas that we're going to have to watch. I think as we start to see these bands pivot around, and once you start getting one tornado warning, you kind of feel like there might be some more developing too, because whatever is producing this tornado threat here and producing that spin in the atmosphere, there's going to be more of it around somewhere. So you can't just focus too much in one area. You have to look all around the area, and almost, it's just like watching a sporting event. You got to have to watch as the play goes on. You got to keep on watching things and see how it all goes. So you can't just watch one part of the field or one part of the hurricane with this, because ultimately there's just going to be continued threats with that. Tyler, thoughts on this? I mean, there's not much to show, but certainly a significant threat, a reasonable threat, I think.
Yeah, and one thing I want to point out is I was kind of looking at the maps of kind of what's in this area, and it is a lot of marshland. There's the Oak Creek Marsh, there's the Long Point Marsh. The only real area of reference is off to the north here. Near Highway 66.
Right.
Up in here you have Cruiseville and Highlands Hammock State Park right in here, but that's just on the edge of the tornado warning. There's really not a whole lot of roadways. It's mainly a marshy lowland area, which is fantastic news. As it moves a little bit further this way, we are going to get towards Sweetwater, and then Buchanan is slightly over here too. But overall, like we've kind of been talking about, it's not a densely populated area.
Right. Which is good. I mean, there's some over there, but it's my concern is as it moves up towards Moffett and Wauchula. I mean, the radar presentation hasn't changed all that much, so we're still looking at probably this threat. The tornado warning goes for another 14 minutes now, goes until 12:15, and that'll likely get it to about here. Initially, this area here, which kind of looks like a little bit of a hook, which would indicate some of that rotation within this band. Started way back here in Highlands County, so it's traveled its way probably about 10 miles or so now. So we've kind of seen this steady little rotation as it moves up to the north and west. New scan there. Nothing all that impressive with it. It'll be interesting to see if we actually do find some reports of any damage with this as it moves through. But on the whole, overall, this is just kind of an expected element of these rain bands on the northeastern quadrant as they start to move into the area and as that center of the storm. I mean, probably not too far off from landfall, right?
Yeah, no, we're getting close to that time frame now as we approach the early afternoon hours, kind of just shifting now into the afternoon. That's what we've been talking about all morning long, is that potential for landfall. But you can see maybe a couple spots of rotation in here that are being there's an early signature where the radar, the in-house radar is trying to guesstimate if there's any rotation that could potentially develop. And then we do have a couple of these spots right in here, right along 66 that we're watching here. You can see a little bit of those reds and greens. And we see just a couple of these sporadic spots. They're just not well-defined centers of circulation there that would produce a tornado. We hope, there's Grant, can we zoom in right in here? There's maybe a little bit more potentially of a rotation just Yeah.
We're kind of able to tap into multiple radar sites
Well,
there.
we're pretty far from the radar site, multiple radar sites. So maybe, there's a decent chance that there's some gustier winds within that storm right in there, but it does look like both velocity products are showing maybe a little rotation in the Cruiseville area. So if you do live in that area, near or along Highway 66 there, again, this is just along the border here where you run into Highlands County. So it's going to work its way off to the north and west here and kind of run along 66. So we'll watch this area of rotation a little bit more as, there you can see kind of that wind away from the radar in red, wind towards the radar in green. So. Yeah, we're talking about the entire area, Frank. Good question. It's kind of the whole area in general as we kind of watch that line that's kind of pivoting over some of the same areas. So all in here, where that warning is, we're going to see the potential for a little bit of rotation. It's kind of the National Weather Service saying, hey, that there is the potential for a brief spin-up tornado in any of these little kinks or line segments that we're seeing right here. So we had one that moved through here. Now we got another one that's developing right here towards Cruiseville. That's the rotation that we were just watching. You can see that little appendage kind of sticking out on the south side here. You can get a little bit of rotation because you can get rotation on the backside of that little appendage, and that causes a little bit of spin up right there. And then we'll have to watch this area right here just off to the west of Lake Placid too. Could see some rotation there. So, but this one right now probably has our most attention across the area. We do have that tornado warning. Again, that still continues for about another 10 minutes or so.
Here, we just got a notification of another extreme wind warning,
Okay.
which is similar to a tornado warning, but a
Oh, yeah.
little bit more specific to hurricanes, and it's like just a much larger tornado warning,
Yeah,
right?
and this stretches into southern parts of our viewing area too, into parts of Sarasota County. It looks right there, just to the south of Venice. If you know this area, there's Englewood, there's Minnesota Key, there's Longboat Key in this area, just off to the north. So we do have these extreme wind warnings, like Grant just mentioned. These are winds that are pushing close to a lot of tornadoes, and the reason why is, see this band that's setting up right over here. So right here, move out of the way, you can see right through Sanibel all the way up in here and then rotating around. This is the eye wall of the storm. So that's where the most intense, the strongest winds are going to be, and that's got to be treated like a tornado warning too. So hopefully a lot of these locations have completely evacuated, but anyone even further inland might be able to see some of these winds that produce tornado-like capabilities. Now, it's not going to produce a tornado, but when you talk about wind speeds over 100 miles per hour, right, we're talking about this storm having wind speeds close to 155 miles per hour with potential gusts even higher than that as it makes landfall. Those are the dangerous winds that are right here pushing towards places like Sanibel Island, Captiva, all the way up the coast. And again, Venice is right here. So if you live in Venice, you are not included, but I do think this does include the Englewood area, which is right along in here, right along the location, the town line there. Grant, do you want to zoom in on a couple of these areas? We can call out some names of some of these
you're right.
towns
Englewood
right here.
right up there.
Yeah, there's Englewood.
And I mean, it's all the way down there. All right,
Yeah.
Minnesota Key.
Yep.
South into Placida, Boca Grande.
Yep.
Gasparilla, and then I mean it's farther south into Cape Coral, and Fort Myers right on the edge of that first extreme wind warning.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, Tyler, that is the eye wall of the hurricane starting to come ashore. So what we'll likely see is, I'm going to put this back into motion here, but then show you this as we watch the storm. It's moving generally to the north, so it's going to move generally, and we'll say more in that direction like that. This extreme wind warning, or potentially another extreme warning, could then show up for places in, let me see here, places up, even up towards Venice. We could see these extreme wind warnings go up the coast from Venice. It's going to be close if it gets up to Sarasota, but I think it definitely continues to head north and a little bit northeast through Sarasota County, and then the threat's going to build into Hardy, DeSoto, and eastern Manatee County as well.
You got something? Okay, there we go. So that's verifying that extreme wind warning right there, 98 miles per hour wind gusts in Sanibel Island. So that is right in the center of that eye wall there. And Grant, we've been looking at the models all morning long, and it does look like this portion of the eye wall is going to stay more intact as it lifts off to the north and east there. So we could be seeing this again push more into Sarasota, even Manatee County, if it can extend that far north with that extreme wind warning. So there is the potential there. Wherever that eye wall sets up and makes landfall, we're going to see probably more of these warnings. Again, you do want to treat them like a tornado warning themselves.
Yeah, let's get back to that tornado warning we were just talking about there. That just we still have about another 7 minutes or so on this tornado warning for DeSoto and Hardy County. Not as much of a concern for Highlands County at this point, though it continues to kind of spin up there. It's not even like it's advancing into the western part of that warning. It's almost like these whatever is creating that little spin in the atmosphere in this band, right, is kind of just hanging out in this area right here. You almost looks like you see another little bit of a curve and a little bit of a hook trying to form right there. Let me go over here and stop this for you.
And you can kind of see, you know, right kind of in between this rain band that's down here and then that primary rain band that's up here, you have this little dry area kind of right in between the two when we pause at the current time. So that allows kind of some fresher air to get into this storm and potentially cause some of that rotation and ventilate it enough to produce some rotation, some of those stronger updrafts. But
it feels like it's all kind of in this general area right here, like all through there.
Along 66 and maybe just south. But again, we mentioned that there's some more populous towns kind of coming up along the way towards the Wauchula and Moffett area. And maybe even extending as far back as Lake Placid, even though I don't think that's technically under the tornado warning. You can see that early rotation signature there. Well, you can see some of those greens and reds kind of mixing together, indicating that there are a couple little kinks in rotation spots to watch, Grant.
Yeah, just trying to kind of extrapolate a little bit from that area that we noted as having those little spins, those little vortices within it. It's those same areas: Cruzville, Sweetwater Church, Zelfa Elementary School. If you live near those areas, just be safe, get to that safe place, and I think you'll be all right. We just got to make sure that we clear this area and we get this little area of rotation to clear out of the area through the next 20 minutes. It looks like that should hopefully get us out of the zone for that potential threat.
Yeah, we've got another 5 minutes here until this warning potentially expires, but you know, we're still looking at the same areas from, you know, extreme western ports of Highlands County all the way into northern portions of DeSoto, and also into Hardy County too, picking up some of those slight areas of rotation.
Yeah, I'm going to go back and just take a look at the bigger picture here and just in relationship. We keep talking about that front right quadrant here, and where you get such a rapid spin. So you have that spin. I mean, it really does look like that classic hurricane. And if you draw out that line from the south and west, this is the right side of the storm. So anywhere over here is where you really do have that tornado threat. But with this hurricane, a bulk of the rain is over here. The really heavy rainfall is now on the western side of this hurricane, but we're finding that tornado threat in that classic location in that front right quadrant. Was that a new tornado warning? No, not new. Okay, all right. So still that same tornado warning there.
They expired.
They just expired.
Yes.
All right, so there we go. Yep. They'll allow that one to call out. So the tornado warning we'll wrap up with that one. That even though we continue to see little areas of spin, not enough to actually produce ultimately that threat of a tornado, but we continue with that new extreme wind warning now into southern Sarasota County. So this is sort of a tornado warning, but just on a much bigger scale, because you're working with not necessarily a vortex or a tornado coming down from the sky, but now you just have the eye wall, those hurricane force winds, those 80, 90 to 100 mile per hour winds, if not even higher than that, when you get into really the core of that eye wall, potentially producing some damage. So you really have to get into your home. You have to get into that safe place, whether it's a home or it's a building, a sturdy structure of any type, and get to that safe place right there, as far away from those outside conditions, those dangerous conditions. So using the radar again, we're able to estimate what those wind speeds are This is coming in roughly, 85. So the minus there indicating just the direction of it, right? So it's moving toward the radar site. So that would be kind of a negative direction. So that's why it says negative. But 85 mile per hour wind, potentially even higher than that. This is just what the radar is estimating higher up in the atmosphere. So potentially down on the ground coming off of the Gulf of Mexico, it might even be stronger than that. So some real-time look at what the radar is sensing for the speed of these winds within the eye wall of Hurricane Ian as it begins to not quite make landfall yet, but it's coming pretty close. It probably happens over the next couple of hours. It's not moving directly toward the coast. It's still taking more of that northeasterly track. So if we put the center right here, it's likely going to make landfall somewhere along the coast there near Captiva, up towards Boquilla. That'll be an area to really watch for where the center of the storm is. And there's Sanibel right there. And so we're likely looking at a landfall somewhere along there. And no doubt, just ferocious conditions right now likely occurring along Captiva Island, Sanibel Island, and all those other barrier islands all there in between. Meanwhile, you've got record surge happening right now in Naples. All that onshore wind, that push of all that wind is blowing all that water up onto the beach. And Chris, you said over 7 feet of surge right now being seen in Naples? All right, okay. 8, okay, so it's now up to 8. So just in the matter of the last 30 minutes or so, now a foot more water has come into the coastal Naples area, where you're talking 7, 8 feet of surge. Forecast has been upwards of now 16 to 18 feet. So as long as that wind continues to blow that water onto the coast, and as the tide comes in with it, you're going to have that combined height of upwards of 15, 16, 17 feet of potentially catastrophic surge there moving into the coast. So those purple there, that's indicating the high wind warning. Big picture here, we have a tornado watch in effect for Hardee, DeSoto, Sarasota, Manatee County, Polk County underneath a tornado watch. This is in addition to the hurricane warning that's in effect. But Pinellas and Hillsborough County not included in that tornado watch, but still, we're still finding those tropical storm force conditions arriving. And I'd be curious, Chris, can we get a check on power outages? Let's start checking some power outages, and let's start looking down towards Sarasota County. Let's start looking into Manatee County and start seeing how those power outages are doing, because the power is going to start going out for a lot of folks. So go ahead.
202,000 out statewide, 62,000 in Sarasota County.
62,000 in Sarasota County, over 200,000 out in the state of Florida. So we're starting to see those power outages come in. If you're still able to watch us, whether you're watching us on your cell phone, on the TV, or you're watching on a tablet or something like that, let's make sure those things are charged up. Let's make sure that your laptops are charged up. Make sure you've got your phones charged up. Let's make sure our power banks are all charged up so we have that extra power ready to go as the hurricane begins to move more to the north into our immediate region for 10 Tampa Bay. So again, the whole thought here is just staying one step ahead of the storm. If we can always stay prepared, stay one step ahead of the storm, we're going to be just fine. We're going to be just fine, right? Yeah. I think if we can just try. We got to be smarter, right? We got to be smarter than the hurricane. It's trying to throw some curveballs by strengthening right before landfall as opposed to weakening. But if we can stay one step of the storm, stay smart, keep trying to think ahead, we're going to be just fine. We're going to make it through this. This is going to be the time through the next 12 hours or so. I think we're going to see some of the worst conditions out there. So let's get through the next 12 hours. Let's get to the other side of this eye, and then we can start to slowly wind things down as we make our way into our Thursday. Looking at wind gusts around the region, still finding some incredible wind gusts. You have to think about where is St. Pete located. It's located there right on the western side of the bay. So as those winds come out of Tampa and they move across the bay, there's no friction. It's like sliding on ice. and those winds just shoot across the bay, and that's why we're finding some pretty strong wind gusts right now in St. Petersburg, sustained winds at 43 miles per hour. These are updating almost in real time. We're looking at 60 mile per hour wind gusts in Sarasota, and then up into Tampa, that's the Tampa International Airport, getting those wind gusts there around 30 miles per hour. Incredible, still over on West Palm, on the eastern side of the storm, over about 75 to 100 miles away from the eye of the storm, still finding significant, there's notable wind gusts at 36 miles per hour. I'm really curious to see that Fort Myers is not reporting any wind gusts. Naples, we may have lost the station at Naples. I'm not sure where that station's located. If it's anywhere close to the coast, then there may be an issue there where we may have lost that station. And that's what happens with hurricanes. They come in. We only know what's happening if we can measure these conditions. If we're not able to measure the conditions, then we can only estimate it at that point. And if a storm comes in and takes out those instruments, then we're just not able to measure them anymore. Have a look at the satellite imagery. This is the visible satellite. This is looking down from space, looking right into the storm. And you can see, if you zoom in even more, you look really closely, you can see these mesovortices that usually line up, and at times they can start to look almost like a starfish. You can get 4 or 5 of them that they go around the center of it, but you're literally looking down at the ocean right now, down at the Gulf of Mexico, right into the eye of the storm. No doubt, if you were in that right now, it would be eerily calm. And then just before you come out on the other side, and then you start dealing with those 100 to 155 mile per hour winds. So just an incredible look. Look how large this thing is. This
massive. Grant, you gave us some numbers. You said 400, more than 465 miles.
Right. Yeah. There you go. When you stretch across, when you look at the western fringe of some of those low-level clouds, even the high-level clouds, even some of those high-level clouds, and you stretch it all the way across, all the way off into the Atlantic Ocean, you're talking over 500 miles that this hurricane is spanning and beginning to envelop all of the Florida Peninsula right now. So everybody in the Sunshine State, we're all in this together with this one. This is one of those hurricanes that we're all going to be working really, really closely to keep you connected to what's happening, because whether it's north or south, east coast or west coast with this one, I think we're all going to be looking at those conditions and making sure that we can stay on top of what's happening out there. Rainfall, these totals keep going up as well. We're starting to see those rainfall totals exceed 4, 5, 6 inches of rain in southern Sarasota County. So we'll have to start watching for some flooding down in southern Sarasota County. The heaviest of the rain hasn't quite arrived yet in the immediate Bay Area, but we'll likely start to see the threat for some flooding. If it's not flash flooding, give it a few hours, we may begin to see some of those rivers begin to rise as well, as that water runs off and eventually feeds into the tributaries that go into some of our rivers as well. Forecast rainfall real quick. We're looking at still estimated rainfall forecast totals of anywhere between 15 to 20 inches of rain here, mainly across portions of Polk County, southeastern Hillsborough County, down to Sarasota and Manatee County as well. So Frank and Caitlin, a lot changing with this. I think we should be looking for landfall probably within the next hour and a half or so. And then we'll just continue. The landfall is not going to change, and the impacts are going to continue to go downhill, especially for Tampa Bay.
Right. You talk about more than 500 miles caught up in the midst of all that, a car crash. I want to do we have an image of this?
On the Howard Franklin
On the
this
Howard
morning?
Franklin.
Yeah.
We're told on the Pinellas side. Okay, so I'm not sure. Is that?
Yeah, pretty shaky camera. Obviously, we're dealing with a lot of wind conditions out there, so bear with us. But we're just getting some details. More on the Pinellas side, Howard Franklin Bridge. There's a crash right now. We don't know the extent of injuries or the extent of the crash right now. We're still waiting to get more information about that, who's involved. But again, if you can stay off the roadways, this is the day and the time to do it. We want emergency vehicles really to be able to get to where they need to go quickly. expecting a lot of water out there
All right,
as
turbulent
well.
situation. I want to show you these maps right here as well. I want to take you to Naples first, courtesy of EarthCam if we have it.
Yeah.
I want to show you the situation much farther south of where we are at this hour. Do we have it?
I don't know if you just heard too. If you're just tuning in, we were just chatting with Grant and Tyler Moore. They were looking at, and Chris is with us as well, a meteorologist, Bianchi. He said that record surge off the beach of Naples, over 8 feet, right guys? About 8 feet of storm surge off the coast of Naples. So this is a courtesy of EarthCam for you, but look at that.
Those winds, right? Those wind speeds?
Well, that's
yes.
Unbelievable. There's obviously going to be some damage there.
Well, that's where we saw the people there. What was that, about an hour ago?
Did you?
There were a lot of people that were up there, and we were talking about how that was going to change quickly.
The boardwalk there, completely, you know.
Well, I think that's a pier. That's a pier going out over the water, and there were people. If you look, there's some trash cans right there at the top of the steps, right?
Right, they were right there by the.
They were right there. They've got the barricade up there, so they were right up to the edge of that barricade.
Oh my goodness!
No more than about an hour ago.
Well, we have another image for you here, Grant. This is Englewood Beach. Do we have that image right there? I want to show
courtesy
you
of
this.
EarthCam as well is what we're looking for.
Yeah, I want to show you this image as well. And there we go. Can we take it full?
Look at the surf out there. That is wild. Englewood Beach, courtesy of EarthCam, as we track Hurricane Ian right now.
Now, I believe Englewood is north of the center of the storm right now. So that's actually, the wind is pushing the water away. And look at the palm trees.
Remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to diagnose with this picture. I mean, Tyler just pointing out the trees there. You see how the winds are blowing the palm trees out towards the Gulf of Mexico, but still and then look at the spray coming off of the waves coming in. The spray is just ripping off the tops of those waves as they come crashing into Englewood there. Incredible. It's amazing the difference, right, between what you're getting in Englewood, where the waves are battling the wind that's pushing the water away. Meanwhile, in Naples, it's free range.
Yeah,
it's flooding.
The storm surge there.
Absolutely, 8-foot plus storm surge happening.
Yeah, just giving you images as they roll in here. Again, we're in our backup studio. Our studio in Pinellas County was in a flooding area, so our whole crew here, a team of meteorologists, our producers, our production directors, we are all in a building in the Tampa area where we are much safer than we would have been where we were in an evacuation zone. So we're continuing to cover this, continuing to show you the images as safely as we can today. We want to get to a phoner right now. I believe this is Brian Gleason, Charlotte County EOC. Hi, Brian, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. And I don't know how much you've been able to hear from our station as well, but I know you've got teams tracking this storm. Right now, we are waiting for landfall near Captiva. We heard earlier from our mayor in Tampa that she had reached out to the mayor of Punta Gorda. I know that our emergency officials, our leaders are trying to work with others south of us. You guys are really kind of getting the brunt of this right now.
Right now, we're in pretty good shape. The eye wall is being reported to be going ashore in Sanibel. Currently, we're not experiencing sustained tropical storm force winds yet, but as the storm comes ashore, then that's going to change quickly over the next hour or so. So we're telling our folks to shelter in place, find an interior room, bring some water and some snacks, and ride this out for the next hour or two and stay safe.
Ride it out indeed there, Brian. And, we've been advising folks, of course, to stay away from the windows, not trying to get a peek of what's going on out there because you want to stay at a safe distance. Can you kind of describe the sounds, as I know you're probably in the safest spot of the building that you're in right now?
We're in a Cat 5 rated building that was built after Hurricane Charlie, which destroyed our previous emergency operations center during the storm, and we had to evacuate the EOC. So that's not going to happen this time, but we do expect to have some widespread power outages, trees down, flooding roads. We don't know what's going to happen with the storm surge, but I just saw a video of downtown Fort Myers with 2 feet of water running down the street.
Yeah, Naples seeing a tremendous amount of storm surge there as well, about 8 feet of it. We were just showing some video that from EarthCam of the coastline there, which
Referencing Charlie, 2004, so the lesson learned from the previous storm. This, you said, is equipped to withstand Category 5 hurricane winds.
Correct, yeah, and a generator. So we are an autonomous standalone unit that's capable of operating independently for more than 2 weeks.
Yeah, what does it sound like there? Grant was asking that as this storm rolls through the area, what are you hearing, if anything, of this storm?
Well, I was just outside the EOC. We haven't locked down yet because we have not received tropical storm force sustained wind, which we expected to happen about 8 hours ago. But we're still not locked down. Inside, when it is locked down, it's as quiet as a church mouse.
Yeah,
so
surprising, even surprising to our meteorologists here because of what we're tracking on the radar and expectations in the area, the wind speeds there. I think a good piece of advice for people to stay where you are because you don't, the calm before the storm.
Well,
the calm
we showed
before,
that car accident.
Yeah, you don't want to get out and about and you don't want to check out your surroundings. This is the time to stay in your safe area. Just hunker down and bear with this storm as it rolls through the area. Grant, the Charlotte County area,
no doubt the eye wall is heading toward them. There is a little break in what looks like some of the outer bands that are moving a little bit farther north.
Okay, maybe that's what they're seeing.
But you see there where all that lightning is near Captiva, just west of Fort Myers. That's the eye wall of the storm. So while it may be relative calm right now, I'm sure they're bracing for those more intense conditions here soon.
All right. Thank you, Brian, for joining us. You stay safe out there. We appreciate it. We will touch base with you a little later on today. We also want to go to our Jennifer Titus. She's been in Sarasota, the Venice area, and really
she's been through it all morning.
Yeah, talk about gusts of winds. Jennifer, how are you doing?
Yeah, guys, here in Sarasota, that was a big wind gust that just literally came right there. You can see how strong that wind is getting. It's what we've been saying all morning long, is these wind bands are just getting stronger and stronger. Where we are, we have a concrete wall, a concrete hotel blocking us. And the good thing is we are really not seeing any other people outside right now. People are really heeding these warnings to stay inside. Now is not the time to evacuate. If you've made the decision to ride out this storm inside, stay inside. Like I said, all of these hotels are packed. They are booked right now with evacuees who have taken this seriously. They have heeded the warnings. There have been mandatory evacuations in Zone A's, in Zone B's, low-lying areas. Down in the city of Venice, they've actually shut off the potable water to residents and are not turning that back on until these wind gusts get down to at least 35 miles an hour. Also, in Manatee County, we know that emergencies officials have made the decision right now to also stay put. So if there is something, they can't get out on the roads right now because of how high the wind gusts are. And they're just asking everybody to be safe. Don't go out. Don't go outside right now. Stay where you are. We're seeing lots of reports of power outages around here in Manatee County and Sarasota County. So we're going to see those continue throughout the day. The hotel that we are at here, it's already flickered numerous times this morning. Always comes back on, but we're hearing other places are seeing that power out. So I think the last time I saw in Sarasota County, more than 30,000 people without power. And we know those crews are ready once this storm gets past and it is safe enough to get that power restored. It's just going to be kind of a we're all in this together type of thing for the next couple of hours as this storm comes through. But everybody just needs to be safe because you can just see how much that wind really is gusting right now and that rain continuing to fall. So even if you're like, the wind's not that bad, it's after that storm, it's that flooding, it's that storm surge that everybody is just asking people to pay attention to. You're not out of the woods yet. And again, these wind gusts just keep on coming. They're strong, a lot stronger than this morning, and they're going to continue to get strong as we see Ian's bands make its way, make landfall here, and see the effects of this here in Sarasota County.
All right, right on cue right there. Jennifer Titus, as she said, we are not out of the woods yet. It had died down momentarily, just like that.
Well, and you could see on the map there while she was talking, you're seeing those gusts. Just moments ago, they were at 60. Now we're at 63 miles per hour. Wind gusts in the Sarasota area. Taking a look at the map here, taking a look up and down our coast here. Gusts in St. Pete right now at 62, 63 in Sarasota, 63 mile per hour gusts in Venice as well. So this is Venice Island.
Okay, so who's hanging out with us there? Okay, we have video with us there in Venice Island. All right, so.
Yep, taking a look at what the after effects of those wind gusts. You can see very breezy out there, very windy as those palm trees, and also seeing some limbs on the ground there as well. A little difficult to see with all the rain coating the camera, but my goodness, we are seeing the impacts of this storm. Again, this is Venice Island as we track Hurricane Ian and their effects and its effects on our Florida region.
Now, here's the thing. Some of those neighborhoods that we showed earlier down south in that Venice area, they look more like rivers, right?
Right, yeah.
Right, from the flooding that we warned you about.
Meanwhile, complete antithesis up in the Tampa Bay area, the Hillsborough River being blown out basically by the water. Yeah, and in Naples, we showed you the storm surge not long ago either. 8 feet of storm surge off the Naples coast.
Look at this. Check out that damage right there. That is from a tweet from St. Pete Police saying, another example of a downed tree. This is one at 2630 Fairway Avenue South, Albert, with an airport reporting sustained winds. Grant was talking about this, Tyler as well, 44 miles per hour, gusts up to 54 miles per hour.
Well, we just showed you they're even faster now. It's 62 miles per hour gusts in St. Pete. So if that's what they saw a little earlier, you can bet we will see more damage in the area. And this is why, again, stay inside. This is what will cause damage not only to power lines, we will see water as well and the impacts of that.
By the way, that image, if we can pull it up one more time, just to leave an indelible impression on your memory right there, after the storm has passed, you see something like that, you don't know if there's a live power line in the area. When you see down trees, you see down power lines, you don't know what the situation is.
It's also right across the roadway there too. So as you can see, some neighborhoods, there's going to be some significant cleanup to do. And so if you can stay home, hunker down. Emergency vehicles will get out as they can. But we are seeing Manatee County, you heard Jennifer Titus say, those emergency vehicles, they are locked down for right now for the safety of their own emergency personnel.
Just showed you that tweet right there because social media, we talk about community. Of course, this is where people are gathering as we advise folks to stay home. So Jabari Thomas with a look at what people are talking about online. Let's take a look.
Good morning, beautiful people. Jabari Thomas here, and I'm telling you, there are a lot of videos and a lot of photos that are coming in from Hurricane Ian, even all the way down from Sarasota. Check this out. This is what Sarasota Police Department posted. They said here in this tweet, officers are doing final checks throughout the city of Sarasota before Hurricane Ian's winds reach 45 mile per hour winds. Now, when that happens, they say that their response will be extremely limited. So the Sarasota Police Department is asking people to please stay off the road and stay safe. And we'll get through this together. Now, I know you guys have probably seen all the images of the Tampa Bay being emptied out by Hurricane Ian. And here's some more photos. Check out this one right here from Snell Island. Somebody tweeted this photo. It looks like a pier is out there. It seems like the water is supposed to be underneath the pier, but it's apparently not. I mean, when you think about it, just like a couple of days ago, yesterday, the bay was supposed to have 12 feet of water, like on top of the original amount that's already in there. And today is like a totally different story, which goes to show you the power of a storm and the prediction of how this all works. Just the smallest moves can make the biggest difference. So now all eyes are in the Fort Myers area, but thank God that that opposite reaction did happen to the bay, because that would have been bad. And then check out what Hubbard's Marina posted here out of Johns Pass. Usually where there's a ton of water, a place where you can see dolphins, well, that water is no longer there. It's out of that area right now because of Hurricane Ian. So we are definitely going to keep you guys safe and try to keep you guys safe by giving you all the information you need. If you need any more information, you can head to our website, 10tampabay.com. You can download our free app, 10 Tampa Bay. And on those two sites, you'll notice there's an area you'll find, it's called Near Me. And if you hit that, if you click on that, you can actually send in your own videos and your own photos to us directly. And it shows us where you're at and what's happening at that moment. And we encourage you to send photos and videos to us. We're also on Twitter and YouTube and Instagram. So there you have it. Until next time, I hope you guys stay safe out there.
All right, and talking about staying connected, we've continued to say this. Yeah, both phones up while you do it. You want to let your, we've heard the governor say this, we've heard emergency management say this, we've heard mayors say this. Let your loved ones know where you are, where you intend to ride out this storm, how you're doing. Check in with people as you can. AT&T, we're just hearing.
This is good.
Waiving talk and text data charges right now so that people can stay in touch as much as they can throughout the storm. We've also been reminding you, Grant just did momentarily ago, and we're both taking his advice. Keep your phones charged as long as you can right now. We are, of course, anticipating power outages, and you want to be able to stay connected as much as you possibly can. A good time to download our app if you don't already have it.
If you lose power,
we will continue to stream. We'll continue to keep you up to date. So if you lose your cable, if you lose power at home, you can still stay connected with us and, of course, your loved ones as well. We want to take you out to Tampa now, too, to show you the conditions there. Where exactly are we looking at? Oh.
If you will, back there, give us an update. Let us know where we're looking one more time.
Rick's on the river is what we're looking at here, and you can see, again, that water blown out of the area, quite the antithesis of what we're seeing south of us on the coast. Naples area seeing that storm surge, our Hillsborough River, Tampa area, they are seeing the water receding as it's blown out of the area.
My goodness. You know, and Caitlin, you've seen me typing away over here trying to keep in touch with loved ones trying to keep in touch with me. People are checking in on you to make sure all is well because they don't know the situation. It could be this in one particular county, calm, and not so much in another area.
Yeah, and let's take you out to Sarasota now, too. Oh.
Hannah Deneen there.
Hannah Deneen in Sarasota. Hannah, what's going on there?
Well, Caitlin, just moments ago, alarms went off in this room with an alert going out that we've been waiting for all day. That means winds have reached 45 miles per hour, and now it is no longer safe for emergency vehicles to be on the road. They are getting off the road. The Sheriff's Department vehicles, fire rescue vehicles, so no more ambulance. No one is going out on the road anymore. Everyone who is at home still is urged to shelter in place. That is what everyone here at this Emergency Operations Center in Sarasota is asking people to do. Stay out of the storm, get to a safe location, so shelter in place. If you're home, get into a room with no windows and be prepared to stay there for some time now. They are bracing here for Hurricane Ian to make landfall in Sarasota County's Englewood. That's about 30 miles south of where we are here at the Emergency Operations Center in Sarasota. Now, Zones A and B and Mobile Park homes, they have been under evacuation orders since yesterday. So they were urged to get to these emergency shelters across the Sarasota County area. Fortunately, we just got some news about an hour ago that this morning the number of people in shelters in Sarasota basically doubled. Yesterday there was some concern at how low the number was of people who were taking advantage of these emergency shelters. Now a lot more people have reached that safety this morning, and now people, it's too late. They're shutting their doors at those shelters since this alert went out just minutes ago. So what you're being asked to do is shelter in place no matter where you are, get to a safe location. Some other details, just checking here. 311. That is the emergency helpline, or rather just the helpline that here in Sarasota. If you have any kinds of questions, concerns that you would like to bounce off of someone, there is a room full of people upstairs that are filtering calls. Again, just call that 311. If you're in Sarasota, you're going to be connected to someone who lives and works in Sarasota, one of your neighbors who's able to connect you with information to get you to a safe location now, give you some advice on what to do now that, again, we've reached that 45-mile-per-hour wind threshold and emergency crews are getting off the road. Live in Sarasota, Hannah Deneen, 10 Tampa Bay.
Updating us there. Again, a reminder as what you just said, and this is what we were hearing, is that Sarasota 45-mile-per-hour winds is when they're going to get emergency vehicles off the roadways. And so that means if you've decided to shelter in place, no matter if there's a mandatory evacuation, if you made that decision, you got to hunker down right now. Emergency vehicles can't get to you when it's not safe for them out there on the roadways.
And unfortunately, this is why you heard public officials saying don't wait to do it, because eventually there is going to be a cutoff. If you are just tuning in here at the bottom of the hour, I'm Josh Sidorowicz, joining Caitlin here as the switch.
The revolving door,
the revolving
right?
door continues as our coverage continues here to keep you informed, prepared, and connected. And we are seeing that conditions are worsening across Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And Sarasota in particular has been a big focus here, at least in our area.
Right.
Today.
Let's go out to Miguel Octavio, he's in Sarasota as well.
You can see the power is out. That is why it is so dark at the moment. Thankfully, we have some equipment to help us out to provide you some updates regarding Hurricane Ian here in Sarasota. But again, the power is out, as I imagine, with a lot of folks. A big concern we're still experiencing here, though, are damaging winds and heavy rain. In fact, the shutters from this home actually came off. That is how strong the winds have gotten since our initial hit earlier here in Sarasota. Of course, another concern, I've been talking about flooding here as well. The pool in our backyard is actually overflowing at the moment. Thankfully, some of this water is not creeping into the home yet, but this is a common experience for folks who are experiencing Hurricane Ian at the moment right now. Now, on the way here, we saw a lot of branches coming down. We saw a lot of leaves coming down, and a big concern from Sarasota PD is really for folks to stay away from the roads as we continue to experience the brunt of Hurricane Ian. And while we might not experience any of that storm surge, or much of it really rather, damaging winds, heavy rain, flooding, those are still major concerns. So Sarasota PD is urging folks to stay out of the roads. But at the moment, our concerns here are power, wind, rain, flooding. We'll be keeping an eye rather on those developments from Hurricane Ian and keep you posted on air and online on 10 Tampa Bay. For now in Sarasota, Miguel Octavio, 10 Tampa Bay.
Okay, Miguel, and of course we were expecting those power outages there. We're just getting this in to our newsroom. Our producer's just letting us know the Florida Disaster Fund. First Lady DeSantis has announced that, has activated that fund. It is a private fund.
Yes, so what is this? It is a place where people, you can donate, and then that money, those funds will go to communities that will be impacted here after the fact to help in recovery.
Of course, we're going to have so many of them.
I want to tell you how you can donate if you are interested. You can text the word disaster. Text the word disaster to this number, 20222. 20222, the word disaster. Text, and you can help out. Again, that is the Florida Disaster Fund that is, Caitlin just said, has been activated by First Lady DeSantis.
Our Clearwater Police, we're hearing from them now. This is a tweet coming in. This is the view alongside the shore of the north side of Memorial Causeway.
As that water is being pulled out of that area there.
Several boats washing up there. You can see them on their sides.
Or perhaps they didn't wash up. They were just anchored there in the water.
Could have been derelict boats.
Come out from underneath them at this point, or derelict boats. But there you go. So that is a new tweet from Clearwater Police there, the view along the north side of the Memorial Causeway.
Starting to see these images. This storm, by the way, has not made landfall yet. We are still waiting for that, but already seeing so many impacts up and down the Florida coast. Our meteorologists have been monitoring the conditions out there, the radar, the satellite, all as we watch this storm approach. We're getting the latest conditions from them.
And they've been talking too. They've been getting hourly updates now, right, from the National Hurricane Center to update their forecast here as we track this storm getting closer and closer to land. And let's go over now to meteorologist Grant Gilmore. with some more information. Have you gotten an update? Well, we're almost to the top
Well,
of the hour here,
it's,
right?
it's,
Yeah.
well, it's 12:47, so we still have those 12 o'clock, those noon numbers for you right now. Though I got a lot to run through here with you. Obviously, there's a lot to pass along to you, and I mean, we're trying to do it really as quickly and as efficiently as possible. But just as soon as we get new information in, we try to share it with you, we get more information to update. So let's run you through right now. Cat 4 hurricane. Ian is a Category 4 hurricane, almost a Category 5 hurricane. This is going to become really close as it starts to move inland over near really the Sanibel area right now. Sanibel, Captiva is where the eye wall is starting to hit, and it's moving into portions of Charlotte County. Couple of things, we're updating this information as we speak. This just coming in. We're looking at 56,774 customers without power in Lee County. Collier, 52,000, Sarasota, 39,000, and Manatee County, 27,000. Statewide, working with 250,000 people out of power right now. No doubt these numbers are going to go up as the worst of Ian now begins to move ashore over southwest Florida. Peak wind gusts, we're just getting these in from several weather stations across southwest Florida. Naples report, this is an actual weather station reporting this, 111 mile per hour. That was a wind gust, right, Chris? That was a wind gust of 111 miles per hour. Fort Myers, 99 mile per hour wind gust. Sanibel reported 98, 79 in Punta Gorda. And St. Pete even, impressively enough, 63 mile per hour wind gusts there at Albert Woodard Airport in downtown St. Petersburg. All of these icons right here, those are hurricane force wind gusts. These right there are tropical storm, sorry, switch that. These are hurricane force wind gusts. These with the filled in center are tropical storm force wind gusts. So several reports of hurricane force winds all up along the west central and southwest coast of Florida. And then even over on the east coast of Florida, several reports of tropical storm force winds. And then right in the middle, where earlier on this morning and through last night, we had several reports of tornadoes and 10 or 11 reports of tornadoes at this hour. Tornado watch remains in effect for Polk County, Hardy, DeSoto, Highlands, and then over to the west into Manatee and Sarasota County. Let's look at the radar presentation right now. No tornado warnings to speak of right now. However, the worst of this storm is not a tornado. The worst of it is in the eye of this storm, where we're finding those 100 mile per hour plus wind speeds, sustained or gusts at that point. It's going to be taking down trees. It's going to be producing that damage. Let's take you on a tour of the radar here over the immediate area. We've got those rain bands moving through. It's within those rain bands where you're finding those gusts that are in excess of 60 to 70 miles per hour. And this has been an area that has really started to get into more of that persistent moderate rainfall. Areas south are picking up on much more rainfall. Back to the south and east, this is where we had our tornado warning earlier on this afternoon. We had areas in eastern Hardy County, DeSoto, and Highlands County underneath the tornado warning, now just working with some showers and heavier rainfall. Gusty conditions within this band moving up from, let's see, Venice right now, Venice Beach moving north, up towards Sarasota, Lakewood Ranch, in between a couple of bands, but you'll start to see the wind speeds increase within that band right there, moving right to the northwest towards Lakewood Ranch, and then from Lakewood Ranch, it'll continue to curl itself up towards Bradenton, Anna Maria Island, and then farther north as well. Still an extreme wind warning in effect for southern Sarasota County into Charlotte County, just west of Port Charlotte now, right as that eye wall begins to move inland. So that extreme wind warning, we don't see a lot of these. Typically you see them though with hurricanes, with these major hurricanes moving ashore and those wind speeds in excess of 90 to 100 miles per hour. You have to treat this just like a tornado warning. So if you're in that area, southern Sarasota County, you need to seek shelter and stay there now. Stay safe. Sustained winds anywhere between 36 to 44 miles per hour in Venice. This is all culminating from the center of the storm, just emanating those rain bands out from the center of it. So St. Petersburg is certainly taking a lashing right now, and everywhere south is going to continue to see those conditions deteriorate as we watch Ian move up from the south. Rainfall will accumulate. We'll start to see more and more. We've seen more than 5 inches of estimated rainfall total, so we could start to see some flood warnings come down, flood watch out in effect for the entire area. So it's all coming to a head here, guys, and we're likely going to see this continue through the next 6 to 12 hours.
We want to take you out live this morning. Liz Crawford has been in Pasco County. She was at a special needs shelter earlier. I know she was with the EOC, and I believe that's where you are now, Liz, right?
Yep.
Yes, I can see right behind you. Yes. Hey, Liz.
Oh, well, you know, I'll tell you, we have reached the sideways rain portion of Hurricane Ian here in Newport Richey. So I've been all over Pasco County since 3 a.m. If you have never been up this way, it's a huge county. They have a lot of ground to cover and a lot of different things happen, a lot of different elevation, rivers. They've got a lot to keep their eyes on. So we're back here at the Emergency Command Center. But really what I wanted to show you was happening outside, because like I said, I've been now on the road since 3 a.m. from Wesley Chapel to Hudson Beach to Hudson itself, and now here at Newport Richey. And I am seeing a change in the elements. So if you've never stood outside in a hurricane, which I hope most of you have not, I've done it a couple times for the job, but I will tell you the rain is different. It's not like when you get soaked in one of those thunderstorms in Florida, you know, when you get totally dumped on walking to the car. It's really not like that. It kind of comes in waves, in those bands, and then what makes it so different is just that it's that pelting rain, and it comes at you sideways. And then we've got some of these gusty winds. Of course, they don't have the flag up right now, but you can hear that flagpole. And we are certainly getting some of that wind right now. So we can feel that change, dramatic change, just in the last, I would say, 2-3 hours that we're starting to feel that here in Newport Richey. So it's just the combination. It's the combination of the consistent rain, and then when that wind gets behind it, it kind of hurts when it hits you in the face. It really does, because it's that pelting rain. So again, we're here in Newport Richey. Right now, officials inside, about 50 people, command center, they are bracing for a flood event. So they're expecting a lot of their rivers to overflow, people in those low-lying areas. That's now kind of where their attention has shifted. And many of us, I know we've all seen what's going on down there in Fort Myers. So we know that Hurricane Ian is now knocking on our door, and we still have to brace for the worst that is coming. As the winds pick up here, best thing you can do, stay safe. We're out here, so you don't have to be. I will keep you informed on what these elements are doing as Hurricane Ian comes closer and closer to the Pasco County area. I'm going to send it back to you guys, but again, I'm glad you got to see that those gusty winds certainly starting to pick up. We are indeed feeling a shift as this storm gets closer to us. In Newport Richey, Liz Crawford, 10 Tampa Bay.
All right, thanks so much, Liz. Yeah, seeing a little bit of the radar with her live shot there as well. We are awaiting that landfall near Captiva. That would be the center of the storm, somewhere along there. I know our meteorologist tracking that, expecting it, you know, within the next hour or so at this point.
And you know, it's going to be a similar situation in Pasco, as we've been talking about, that it is down in Sarasota, where once those winds reach a certain threshold too, emergency officials have said we're not going to come out there and be able to answer calls anymore. I think the threshold there was
around 45 miles,
45 or 50.
Yeah, 50 miles per hour is when they stop.
And you know, yeah, they're just not going to be able to, and so that's another reason why if you are where you are right now is where you should probably stay at this point, because that is going to be your safest bet. Want to go live now to 10 Tampa Bay reporter Malik Rankin in Tampa with the mayor, Jane Castor. Malik.
Did we lose your shot?
Just froze.
Yeah, let's.
Hey guys, yes, we are live with Mayor Jane Castor right now. And you know, as we were driving over here, you were talking about just an hour or so ago how you're grateful for some Cat 1 conditions here. What did you make of the drive?
Well, you know, the only thing, there's some wind gusts, but a lot of palm fronds down and a few limbs, but nothing yet. However, this is really the calm before the storm. We're still going to get flooding, widespread flooding, and tropical storm, if not category 1 winds. And that's why I say I never thought I'd say I was thankful for those conditions.
And you've already been reaching out to mayors south of us. Can you tell us a little bit about how you're planning to lend a helping hand once conditions really get bad here?
Yeah, well, once we're through the storm here, clearly it's going to be much worse for our neighbors to the south. And so I just called all of the mayors, letting them know that our thoughts and prayers were with them, and that anything that we could do to assist them. Our state is really well organized in disaster response, especially as it pertains to storms, and we have search and rescue teams, we have law enforcement teams, we've got everybody that are prepared to go down and help wherever needed.
And to give some context real quick, guys, we're at the ERC, the Early Response Center. This building, we've got the signal. We can't show you the inside, but it's filled with women and men that are here to clear the roads as soon as they can. Can you talk to just the importance of their jobs, getting those roads open?
It is. I call them the unseen heroes, because they really are all here staging 3 geographic areas throughout our city, and they'll be the first ones out to clear the debris from the roadways. And we've got TICO embedded here, we've got mobility, we have heavy equipment operators, chainsaws, whatever it takes to get our roads clear so that we can get our services restored to our community.
Earlier today as well, we heard from the fire chief, the police chief, even reiterating, if you're in an evacuation zone and you left, don't come back. How can that complicate the work these guys need to do today?
Well, it complicates the work for them, but once we start to get the effects of Hurricane Ian later this evening, you can't be in those evacuation zones. We're still going to have the flooding that we talked about before, and we're going to have the high winds. So we can't come in and rescue you. Don't be a part of the problem. Please stay out of the evacuation zones, and we will take care of the rest. We've got you covered.
And now, Mayor Castor, I know that you're spread thin. You're doing such a wonderful job keeping us informed here. How are you doing managing through this storm?
I'm fine. Really, with 31 years of law enforcement and now being in a seat for almost 4 years, we are prepared. We ensure, I always say there's so few things you can control during a storm, so you have to control what you can ahead of time. And our City of Tampa team does an amazing job of that. I couldn't be more proud of the men and women that are out here serving our community.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I know you have some other people to talk to, so I'll let you go and grab them now. And for you guys that are tuning in here, we'll be giving you live updates through Tampa. We'll be heading back to the Tampa Emergency Operations Center to get more updates from the mayor, from our other city leaders as well. And for now, I'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Malik Rankin with Tampa Mayor Jane Castor. Thank you, Malik, and thank you to the mayor with that. She made a good point saying you could be more of a hindrance if you are out in these, when officials and rescuers are trying to get out to people. So don't be that. Don't be that person out there.
Sounding like a broken record, but this is a time to hunker down. We'll do all the research for you. Now, she also said earlier that she spoke with mayors south of us. She talked to Fort Myers, Naples, Punta Gorda. She also had a phone call with President Biden.
I made it clear to the governor and the mayors that the federal government is ready to help in every single way possible. Now, I repeat what I said yesterday to the people of Florida. The storm is incredibly dangerous, to state the obvious. It's life-threatening. You should obey all warnings and directions from emergency officials. Don't take anything for granted. Use their judgment, not yours. Evacuate when ordered. Be prepared. The storm warnings are real. The evacuation notices are real. The danger is real. And when the storm passes, the federal government's going to be there to help you recover. We'll be there to help you clean up and rebuild, to help you get Florida get moving again. And we'll be there at every step of the way. That's my absolute commitment to the people of the state of Florida.
Okay.
All right. So President Biden, they're talking about his call with Tampa's mayor about, they will be sending in support after the storm. We want to get right now to meteorologist Grant Gilmore, though, because it sounds like we do have a possible tornado warning, Grant?
We're close to it, Josh. We're watching a cell that's moving out of Okeechobee County into southeastern Highlands County. So it's kind of in this area right here. Let me try to get over to it and show you. Big picture, tornado watch in effect. We know this. We've been talking about this all morning long. Here's the area of concern that we have. It's northwestern Okeechobee County moving into northeastern Highlands County. still relatively unpopulated at this point, but this cell has a pretty good signature on it, a decent amount of rotation associated with it. This radar, or this warning, has been radar indicated, but still a significant concern for the potential for a tornado here as it tracks to the north and west. You see the reds there is the rain moving away from the storm, and then the greens coming up like this. So you have that rotation there potentially producing that tornado within that tail edge of that rain band that's whipping around the fringe of Hurricane Ian right now. So this is all tracking up to the north and west. No warning for the 10 Tampa Bay viewing area quite yet, though. This warning goes until 1:15, so that's another 15 minutes. We don't have an immediate concern right now, but we want to get out ahead of it. That is the theme, right? Staying prepared, staying one step ahead of Ian as it continues to bring multiple threats to Florida right now. We're seeing incredible surge out of Sanibel this afternoon. The Naples area reporting surge and wind gusts in excess of 100 miles per hour. Let's zoom out here, Tyler. Let's look at the big picture. Let's show everyone what's happening with this whole system, because this tornado threat truly is on that northeastern fringe of the greater hazards associated with this hurricane right now. You have multiple rounds of those bands that are spinning around, and every time you get one of those bands, you're going to start to feel those wind gusts. You're going to start to feel that pelting of the rain. That is, of course, if you're outside, but that's not where you want to be. You need to be inside watching us, staying safe, and hunkering down as the worst of the conditions are still yet to come for the immediate Tampa Bay area. Let me run you through here. There's the warning that we're watching. That's for Okeechobee County. We'll take you out towards the immediate Bay Area. This band right here, this is going to be something to watch. This is the leading edge of the eye wall just as it's starting to move ashore a little bit farther south. Now, this doesn't have any warning associated with it, but I would not be surprised if we start to see some wind gusts within that band upwards of 70 to maybe 80 miles per hour. This could cause some damage. You don't want to be near your windows. You don't need it. There's nothing to see. You'll hear it. You don't need to see it. It's just going to be rain being pelted and thrown across the sky and then into whatever's out there. So don't mess with this band right here. This one's going to come with a lot of wind as well as the very heavy rainfall. That will continue to sort of spin itself up into Sarasota and Lakewood Ranch. Let's see, a little bit farther south, there's our extreme wind warning. That's with the eye wall that just is slowly inching its way. This thing is only moving to the north-northeast around 10 miles per hour. So this whole area in western Charlotte County remains underneath this extreme wind warning as the eye wall is just battering the outer, the barrier islands there. So I couldn't think of the word, the barrier islands right there. Just south of Venice. This is moving up into southern Sarasota County right now. So southern Sarasota County, need to be safe, get to your safe place and ride out this storm. It's going to take a while for the eye to move over you, but don't think that when it starts to calm down, you're in the clear. The eye will move over you, it'll be calm, and then the back side of the eye wall will then also move over you as well. So stay inside, keep watching 10 Tampa Bay, and we'll make sure to get you through this storm.
The Florida Department of Transportation has just announced that Fort Drum, Canoe Creek, and Turkey Lake service plazas on Florida Turnpike are now closed. Obviously, they will try to get those open as soon as they can. We have 200,000 power outages reported throughout the state of Florida, but outside of Southwest Florida, crews are working to quickly restore power. Of course, 200,000 is a drop in the bucket for what's going to happen over the next 24 to 48 hours. There's going to be widespread power outages, particularly in Southwest Florida. We have over 100 portable cell towers ready to be deployed into the area once it is safe to enter. Once the storm is past and it is safe to go outside, you still need to be cautious. Avoid down power lines, standing water. Stay clear of downed trees and don't drive in standing water. And please, if you're going to use a generator for your home, do not allow that to be inside. The exhaust needs to be outdoors. Stay out of the way of emergency crews, out of flood waters, and away from all downed power lines. Stay off the roads. There's no need to rush back you're going to have a massive surge of people that are going to be going in to provide, of course, life safety assistance for those who may have stayed in some of the more hazardous areas. You're also going to have power workers going in. We were just in Lake City. I was thinking we had all these power workers, these line workers from all these different states. I saw them from Texas, Louisiana, all these different places staged. We have a massive, massive mobilization. Their job is to get in there and help to restore services. You're also going to have folks bringing in things like food and water. So there's no need to rush back in. There's going to be a lot going on in the immediate aftermath, and a lot of people's safety depends on that. If you're on the roads, you're putting yourself in danger and limiting the ability of emergency crews to restore power and clean debris. Now, we don't know how much debris is going to be, but there's going to be debris, and that's going to make it very difficult to navigate some of these roads. That's why FDOT's immediate mission is to clear the roadways so that people are able to go in and access that to be able to help deliver services for people. In 2019, we were projected to be hit by Hurricane Dorian, which was a Category 5 storm. Fortunately, at the last minute, it took a northward turn and missed the coast, but we did have a really massive mobilization. This mobilization's exceeded that. This is a really, really significant effort, county level, state level, federal support. It's really been impressive to see. Director Guthrie has asked for additional airlift, hoists, and high water vehicles from DOD in coordination with FEMA. The Secretary of Defense has approved Florida's request for dual status of our National Guard forces under Title 10 to provide additional forces, which we very much appreciate. We will also be submitting momentarily a major disaster declaration for all 67 counties, and will request that the federal government reimburse 100% of the upfront costs for the first 60 days to ensure that we can quickly recover and move forward into the response and recovery part. And if you think about this storm, we had storms that have been as strong as this hit Florida? Michael, Hurricane Andrew, Labor Day hurricane many, many decades ago. Yes. Have we had big storms that left a lot of water and flooding? We had Irma recently. This is really bringing both to the table. I mean, you're going to have massive amount of power hitting that coastline with really, really strong winds. That is going to do a lot of wind damage, but you also have the storm is so massive. And people are kind of comparing this to the track that Charlie took in 2004, because Charlie was like this, was expected to hit Tampa Bay. It turned and ended up hitting Southwest Florida. Charlie was strong, but it was a fraction of the size of what we're dealing with here with Hurricane Ian. So the effects of this are going to be broad, and we appreciate the Biden administration's consideration for the people of Florida during this time of need. When I was in Lake City, you had massive numbers of linemen, but you have those staged all over the state. There's now over 42,000 linemen and other personnel ready to restore power in 30 different areas across the state. And those linemen and other associated personnel hail from, of course, many from Florida, but from 27 different states. Of course, our Department of Transportation does have 1,200 personnel on standby to perform cut and toss operations, understanding how important it is to get those roadways clear as soon as possible. Supplies will be brought in by plane, boat, and by high water vehicle. Airports in Southwest Florida do have teams behind, and they are going to work to clear those runways as soon as the storm has passed. We appreciate the Florida National Guard's really impressive mobilization of over 5,000 folks, as well as 2,000 additional guardsmen from other states. They have 9 Chinook helicopters ready to go, and additional 22 helicopters will be coming in after landfall that will be here within the next 24 hours. Kevin will talk a little bit more about this, but we have the 5 urban search and rescue teams. You'll hear from FWC about what they're doing, high water vehicles from Florida Highway Patrol, and of course our Coast Guard partners. There is going to be a massive effort as soon as it passes Southwest Florida to be able to get out, recon the area, and identify areas where there may be a need of rescue services. And some of these counties obviously know where residents decided to hunker down in, so they're going to be looking there first. But this is going to be really, really important to be able to get, I think in Hurricane Michael, I mean, it took a few days to be able to get into Mexico Beach. We have the air assets to be able to recon and know where the response efforts need to go. And so in total, we have nearly 250 aircraft, more than 1,600 high water vehicles, and more than 300 boats of all drafts and sizes, including 250 already in the major impacted areas and nearly 50 that are staged and ready to come in as needed. These include smaller rescue-oriented boats, airboats, and larger boats that will be delivering supplies by water if need be. I want to thank the 26 states that have sent us support, including Tennessee, Virginia, Montana, New York, Colorado, Indiana, New Jersey, and Georgia. I just spoke with Kay Ivey from Alabama, and she's supporting sending some Black Hawk helicopters down to help. Governor Bill Lee in Tennessee fast-tracked a request that we had from Tennessee. We appreciate that. I was also just able to speak with John Bell Edwards from Louisiana. They've helped us, but he said, hey, we've got a lot of experience in hurricanes recently, so these guys are good. Ask us. We want to send more. And so we really appreciate that consideration, and if we need that, we certainly will do that. We also understand that people that are displaced are going to need assistance, so the Department of Economic Opportunity has already deployed funding and guidance through community action agencies to help Floridians in need of short-term support like utilities, hotel bills, and transportation if they have been displaced by this storm. Please continue to monitor local reports, weather reports. Be very cautious about going out into hazardous conditions, and then once the storm passes your area, just make sure that you're very careful, because there's going to be a lot of things, a lot of hazards that are going to be down on the ground. I know there's a lot of people that have reached out. First of all, I want to say thanks. A lot of people have offered thoughts and prayers for the folks that are in the eye of this storm, and that means a lot to us. There's also people that want to be able to do their part, and so I've directed Volunteer Florida to activate the Florida Disaster Fund, where people can donate. It's much better to donate financially rather than sending items. We have everything we need in terms of the immediate response needs, but there will be thousands of Floridians who will need help rebuilding. And to contribute to the disaster fund, you can visit www.floridadisasterfund.org or text disaster to 20222. Again, that's text disaster to 20222. For those who want to come volunteer, we have an official volunteer portal at Volunteer Florida, and that's at www.volunteerflorida.org, www.volunteerflorida.org, and you can look to see of the volunteer opportunities. This is going to be a rough patch here for the rest of today and into tomorrow. But we understand how significant this storm is. Yes, there'll be an immediate response. Yes, there will be things that happen with recovery. Eventually, there won't be much media attention on this as the weeks and months go on. But we understand a storm of this magnitude is going to require an effort over an extended period of time. Those are good folks down in Southwest Florida. They've got really great, thriving communities. This is not anything anyone wants to deal with. It's not something we certainly ask for, but we're going to step up. We're going to be there for folks, and we're going to make sure that folks get back on their feet, and Southwest Florida comes back better than ever. Okay, Kevin Guthrie.
Thank you, Governor. As the Governor has said, Hurricane Ian is approaching landfall as a Category 4 storm with winds of 155 miles per hour in Lee and Charlotte counties. At this time, the division has received nearly 1,000 resource requests from our impacted local partners, and 864 of those are either in process or completed. We are working as quickly as we can to address the needs of those impacted areas. This morning I talked with each and every local emergency manager in the direct path of the storm. If you are sheltering in place in the path of the storm, we're asking you to now please visit floridadisaster.org/info and fill out our shelter-in-place survey. Again, that is floridadisaster.org/info to fill out our shelter-in-place survey. The shelter-in-place survey is designed to provide critical information to first responders about the demographics of your household so that they can aid your families as soon as possible. This is primarily for those who did not evacuate, so that we know where you're at. This is not a substitute for 911. If you have an immediate need, and you need first responder assistance, you need to dial 911. Please understand that those 911 services may not be able to come to you right now, but again, if you need emergency services, dial 911. Even if it is calm outside, you may be in the eye of the storm. I encourage our individuals near Sanibel, near that Fort Myers area, as the eye wall starts to come on shore, if everything stops, the storm is not over. If you can hear us, if you can see us on your TV, you're most likely to have bright, sunshiny area here very soon. You're in the eye of the storm. Stay inside. Stay indoors. Do not go outside. You do not know when that eye wall will collapse. So please stay safe. Avoid down power lines and down trees and standing water when it is over. Use extreme caution. If you see any type of line, do not cut them. Do not cut fiber optic lines. Fiber optics are the backbone of our communication system that allows us to have connectivity for your cellular devices on wireless networks. It provides access to the internet. It provides access to social media. Please do not cut fiber optic lines. To the communities beginning to experience these devastating impacts of Hurricane Ian, know that the state of Florida is standing with you. We have plenty of resources to respond to your need. We have thousands of boats on the ground. We have thousands of boots on the ground. We're ready to assist you. We will make sure that all available resources are used to help you through this difficult time. Please do everything you can right now to stay safe. Thank you, Governor, very much for the opportunity to be here and be your director.
Thank you. All right, Colonel Roger Young, Director of the Division of Law Enforcement, Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission.
Thank you, Governor. Appreciate it. Thank you, Governor, and thank you, Director, for your leadership and support as always, but especially during these trying times. So on behalf of the FWC, I'm Colonel Roger Young, and know that the men and women of the FWC send our prayers and support to all those in the path of the storm at this time. But also know that the FWC officers across the state are prepared, trained, and ready for a full response to this storm. We have 100 officers outside of the affected area ready to respond with high water vehicles and specialized equipment and vessels. We also have 250 vessels staged already inside the affected area that will be ready and utilized for response to this storm. So just know that we appreciate all the support that we're getting, but officers will be ready to respond in this time. Just want to say thanks to everyone, and the FWC officers will be ready for response. Thank you.
Okay, Agency for Healthcare Administration, we have our Secretary, Simone Marstiller.
Governor, thank you very much for your leadership. Director Guthrie, you as well. Good afternoon. As the eye of Hurricane Ian makes landfall, all healthcare facilities have made the necessary preparations and stand ready for Ian's impact. Since the beginning of the emergency, our agency has been focused on the safety and well-being of residents and patients and hospitals and long-term care facilities. We've activated the health facility reporting system, and we've requested and still do request that all healthcare facilities continue to report their census, their available beds, their evacuation status, and their generator status information. And that includes even facilities that might be outside of the impacted areas, because we need to be sure that we can provide the necessary resources to assist everyone when the time comes for response and recovery. As of today, ACA's teams have coordinated with our licensed healthcare facilities in evacuating more than 7,000 patients and residents from 150 facilities. Additionally, our team has activated the Emergency Patient Lookup System, or E+. This system allows special needs shelters in impacted areas to retrieve patient medical records and help medical providers and emergency response personnel to locate missing or displaced persons after the storm. We also have nearly 400 ambulances, paratransit buses, and support vehicles standing by to respond to the areas of impact. In addition to ACA's team's regular visits to all of our licensed healthcare facilities, we have completed more than 343 additional on-site visits to our nursing homes and assisted living facilities within the cone of expectance to verify generator compliance in response to Hurricane Ian. Today, and I know you've heard the governor say this over the last few days, but 100% of our operating long-term care facilities have generators on site. We've also worked very closely with our partners at the Florida Hospital Association, the Florida Healthcare Association and Leading Age, Florida Senior Living, and the Florida Assisted Living Associations. And we've activated, working with them, the Patient Movement Mission. We know that facilities are currently bracing for impact as Hurricane Ian is anticipated to make landfall here shortly. Following the storm, the Agency for Healthcare Administration stands ready to immediately deploy our surveyors for on-site visits to the impacted facilities. During these visits, we will ensure that each facility is maintaining an appropriate temperature for residents and that all other conditions in those facilities are safe for residents. If you are a patient or resident or family member of someone in one of our long-term care facilities or any other healthcare facility, and you experience any issues during the storm that are related to that facility or your stay there or the service, please know that you can lodge a complaint with the Agency for Healthcare Administration on our website, and that's ahca.myflorida.com, using our online complaint portal. If you are a licensed healthcare provider and experience any issues during the storm, please, of course, notify your local emergency manager, but also please report through our health facility reporting system immediately so that we know exactly what your status is and what we need to do to provide you the resources and help that you need. Moving forward, the agency will continue to require these kinds of status reports for power outages, bed availability, and other needs. This has truly been a collaborative effort, and I and my team appreciate all of the work that our agency partners have been putting in. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. So as we see power outages accumulate over the next day, 2 days, the crews that are assembled, massive numbers of people, one of the first orders of business, restore power, fuel, all the essentials. Not every power outage is going to be created equal across the state over the next 2 days. When you have a storm coming in at 155 miles an hour, that's not just going to knock down a few power lines. Yeah, it's going to do that, but it also has the potential to really uproot a lot of the infrastructure that makes people connected and that is used to deliver power to people. And so that will just require a reconstruction of that, and that's something that can be done, but it's not as easy as just simply hooking up a down power line back into place. And so as you get more severe wind impacts, more powerful storm, the storm surge, that's where you're in jeopardy of seeing a lot of that infrastructure disrupted in a way that will require more than just simply rehooking it. It's also the case that you may have homes and or businesses that are not going to be able to take the power because of changes to what's happened to their structures. So just keep that in mind. The folks that are staged are mindful of those different things. They want to get in as soon as possible, assess the damage, and help do the restoration efforts. Some of that may just be typical repair, but some of it may be more in the line of reconstruction. So just be prepared for that. I mean, we've been saying that there was going to be, significant power outages with a storm of this magnitude. That's just the reality. So It's going to pass today from Southwest Florida. As soon as it's safe to go in, there's going to be people. I've already talked to a lot of the locals. They know where they need to look to see the damage assessments, to look to see where people may be in harm's way. Obviously, folks at the state level are going to be doing the same thing, and it's important. And we want to make sure, obviously, save people that may need to be rescued, but then get these services started again, because we need to get people back on their feet as soon as possible. Okay, with that, I'll take some questions.
Governor, you mentioned that there were some people that have chosen not to stay, that lived in that were staying in evacuation areas. Do you have any sense
That chose to stay, you mean?
that chose to stay even though they're in evacuation areas? Do you have any sense as to how many people that is? I know you're doing a survey. Do you have
Well,
any-
that's voluntary in terms of who wants to participate in that. I just spoke with the Charlotte County Sheriff, which is, of course, going to be probably ground zero for this landfall. And it's their view that the vast majority of people in that Zone A did, in fact, evacuate. Now, they have an island community where they had 31 people that were told, were offered, the transit, and they just said that they wanted to stay and shelter in place. And so I know a lot of those barrier island communities, the counties discontinued services, so they were incentivized to get in maybe a more comfortable environment. But some of those people just made that decision to stay, and they, the local officials were not going to grab them by the shirt collar and drag them out of their own house. And so they did that. And look, we've been saying that if you're in an evacuation zone, once that order is made, you're risking potentially your life by staying, and people did that. Nevertheless, as much as you may disagree with that decision, if there's people in harm's way when this storm passes that need help, we're going to be out there helping folks. I mean, that's just the way we're going to do it. And I know that the folks down there in Charlotte and the surrounding counties feel the same way. And there's a lot of resources that have been brought to bear to do just that. Yep, go ahead.
At this point, Governor, have you heard anything about, and I know it's early, so it's probably too soon to tell, but no fatalities, any serious injuries, anything like that associated with this one?
Kevin, I have not gotten a report on that yet.
We did have 2 people transported on tourism.
Question for Secretary Marsteller. Of those 150 facilities, how many were hospitals, and do you have a sense of how many patients within those hospitals that would encompass?
The most recent information that I have, 15 hospitals evacuated, and that amounts to roughly 350 patients. Yep.
It's interesting. Of course, you guys have been following the track. I mean, it was going to be maybe North Florida, then the Tampa. People were talking about one of the worst case scenarios. Of course, it's gone down. My view on that is wherever it hits, if you're in that community, it's probably worst case scenario for you. So I don't necessarily use those. But when it was the Tampa, I spoke with the CEO of Tampa General, and they have a fortification system of their hospital that can withstand like 10, 15 feet of storm surge. And so they do that so that they can keep the patients there, because if you don't have that and you're in a low-lying area, you got to do the evacuations. A number of the hospital systems have done that, who are in those low-lying areas. I think particularly in the Tampa area, I know we had a lot of special needs evacuations, as we should have. I mean, you got to take the information that you have, and they're going to feel effects from this. But my hope is that those patients are going to be able to be brought back as soon as that storm is passed. And I don't anticipate major structural damage. Would be my hope in some of those areas.
So how many individual?
I would do that. Yep.
Sorry, Marilyn. You don't have a take on evacuations for Cape Coral. Just looked up. If you look at the storm surge diagrams that NWS has, it looks like there's a lot of the storm surges in that area. Sanibel and Captiva are getting hammered right now. I'm just wondering how evacuation efforts went there as they embraced the eye.
Again, all of those individuals were under evacuation orders. We don't actually have the numbers of what the percent was that evacuated versus those that didn't. I would imagine, since most of that same area went through Charlie, they probably evacuated. Again, Charlie was a fraction of the size of this particular storm, but I would imagine that most people that have lived through that, they went ahead and evacuated.
I think another issue is just, there were people that evacuated Tampa Bay to Fort Myers because you see the different weather tracks, and it was thought that it would go hit Tampa, maybe go up the coast. And that was not that long ago. I mean, that was, 36, 48 hours ago. You go back another 12, 24 hours from that, it was going to hit Taylor County. And so I think that some of the folks in Southwest Florida, because so much focus was on Tampa, then when it says, oh, actually it may be coming here, I mean, I do think some heeded the warnings, but I think it's because the forecast can kind of be all over the map, that sometimes people say, well, you said it was there, then you said it was there. I think in the future, we tried to stress the uncertainty. When you have a model taking it to Louisiana and another model taking it to Sarasota, and then you just kind of meet, I mean, it's not probably the ideal situation. Now that we're close, once you're within 72, certainly 48, I mean, those are very accurate forecasts. But before that, I mean, there's just so much uncertainty. But I think sometimes people think, well, you said it was going to be here, and then now you're saying it's going to be here. So we'll see how it goes. I know the folks in Lee County, once that forecast changed, I know they acted very quickly, as they should have. And I know that they provided people with an ample opportunity to be able to evacuate. I do think some heeded it, some did not and chose to hunker down. And hopefully, the people that made that choice, that it works out favorably for them.
Issues are going to be specifically for the Tampa Bay area when it comes to rescue efforts from the state. What do you think the biggest issues
In the Tampa Bay area for rescue? Well, I mean, obviously we have enough assets and we understand that this is a big impact, that the rescue efforts are not going to be limited to one municipality or one county. I mean, you're going to potentially have more. My hope is that you're not going to need massive rescue efforts the further away you are from the storm. I also have a huge amount of confidence in the folks in the Tampa Bay area. You look at the sheriff's departments, these are very first-rate operations. They have excellent ability to respond to that. Kevin will be here. Our folks will be here if needed. But our sense is that the further away from the storm, probably the local responders are going to be able to handle that. Here in Southwest Florida, you're going to have all those local responders out, but then you're also going to have all this support, Coast Guard, FWC, you're going to have National Guard. I mean, this is a really, really concerted effort, and that's just the reality when you have such a significant impacted spot. So hopefully they don't need us to fleet resources up. We will do it if there is some really significant. But you look at the guys they got up there, Hillsborough, Pinellas, Pasco, Manatee. I mean, those are really, really professional operations. Did you want Shimon, you said?
I did.
Okay.
Just one follow-up question. You mentioned that there were 150 facilities with evacuated patients, and 15 of them are hospitals. How many nursing homes patients were involved in? And there's always the issue of transfer trauma in transfer of an evacuation. How many, what are you doing to kind of anticipate that trauma on those individuals?
Well, to answer your how many question first, nursing homes that have been evacuated, at least, again, most recent information I have, 40, ALFs 91, the number of nursing home residents 3,508, number of ALF residents 3,012, and that's the most recent information I have as of probably 10 o'clock or so this morning, remembering that the facilities are self-reporting into our health facility reporting system. Now, to answer your other question, the Agency for Healthcare Administration has many partners involved in the effort to move patients when they need to be moved. Not only do the facility staff have a role to play, but all of the associations that I mentioned earlier, right? So the Hospital Association, Healthcare Association, Leading Age, all of those individuals are directly, they directly work with their member facilities, so nursing homes and ALFs. So it's a coordinated effort to make sure that the individuals can be placed in the right location for them, keeping in mind their health needs. Our health facility reporting system is also used to find where there are vacancies in other facilities. Many of these nursing homes in particular, have sister facilities elsewhere in the state. So it makes that kind of transfer a lot easier and less stressful on the individuals who have to change their environment.
really appreciate people's concern for Florida. You know, we do appreciate the prayers. You know, I'm going to be saying prayers that the storms people always remember when they think about Southwest Florida, probably be the big one that they always remember. And if you know anything about our state, you go to Panama City, you know, that Michael is just part of the DNA of the community. Homestead, Hurricane Andrew is just part of the DNA of the community. This Ian is going to rank up there with that. So you know, we need the thoughts and prayers over the near term, and then there's going to be a huge effort on the back end to help people and to get the communities back on their feet. Thank you.
You know, we've heard generation-defining storm, and
Oh my
that's
goodness,
the case
yeah.
in this point. Governor Ron DeSantis there, along with state officials, giving us an update. We've got a lot of information that
I
we've
know.
got
In that time,
pass
we
along here.
got a lot of new breaking information. I want to start in Naples for you right now. An emergency citywide curfew has been effective immediately there, and we saw earlier video from Naples. The storm surge there up to 8 feet. So an intense response there.
So want to also show you video here from Naples, if we can, guys. This is a fire in Naples that was caused by a downed power line there. And I'm not sure, that's from Naples Police Department. I'm not sure, is there a timestamp on that? I can't see it. But again, and this is happening here as we just got word that Naples is now under an emergency citywide curfew effective immediately. And that was 10 o'clock this morning.
10 o'clock this morning,
you know, there might be a lot more water in that intersection.
Showing you the visual of why emergency response is asking you to stay home. You just don't know when something like this is going to happen. If you are out on the roadways, devastating there.
Well, and we're also getting reports of trees down here locally already. Some there's up in Brandon and in Lithia as well. So yeah, driving home that point, don't go out right now.
Right, and of course, emergency responders, some of them are not able to go out right now either. Venice emergency services, they've been shut off right now. At last check, they had sustained winds of 52 miles per hour with gusts up to 67 miles per hour. That was what our meteorologists were telling us about, 20 minutes ago at this point. So Venice Emergency Services have shut down their response, and that's so that their emergency officials, they're kept safe. Again, we've continued to reiterate this today. Unfortunately, if you had a mandatory evacuation in place and you didn't listen to it, you're stuck at home right now, and they can't come to get to you until those winds die down.
No, you're at your own risk at this point. We want to get back to meteorologist Grant Gilmore here with the latest track. Grant.
So we're kind of on the precipice of a landfall right now. As the center of the storm it looks like it's going to be near Captiva. So it's horrifying when you look at it. It really is, and you just see the inundation of the water, and each huge wave, each push of that wind just brings more and more of that water onto all the areas down there. So 155 mile per hour winds right now. Let me take you down there and show you some of the latest stats that we've got in terms of the power outages. Order of more than 250,000 customers, guys, not just people, but over 250,000 customers without power statewide across Florida. Lee County has 78,000, but Collier, Sarasota, beginning to see those numbers go up as well. Manatee County has 27,000, almost 28,000 people who are customers without power. And even Pinellas County beginning to see the power go out. So we'll have to watch that situation closely over the next several hours as the winds begin to pick up. Speaking of the wind speeds, Naples recording 112 mile per hour wind gusts as the center of the storm approached. Pine Island, which is just east of Sanibel, Captiva there, reporting, what was it, Bobby, 126 mile per hour wind gusts with the eye wall pushing through that part of southwest Florida. Sanibel reporting 107 miles per hour. A lot of these stations in Fort Myers, I've been checking them, and they're going offline. So they report those high wind gusts, and then it goes dark. The power goes out, and they're not able to report those conditions anymore. Here it is. There's this monster, Hurricane Ian, beginning to move ashore. The eye of Hurricane Ian is moving over Captiva Island as we speak. This is where we talk about how you move into the eye of the storm. It's just horrendous conditions in that eye wall with those over 100 mile per hour wind gusts, and now everything begins to settle. You have that calm in the center of the hurricane, and then you have to do it all over again with what is arguably now going to be the stronger part of the eye wall. You see, just looking at the radar presentation, even though it looks like the eye is not as strong on the east side, still dangerous conditions on the east side, but I would argue even on the west side it's going to be even stronger. So the video that we've seen coming out of Sanibel and out of Naples and elsewhere around Fort Myers in southwest Florida, we're probably going to see more of that after the calm of the eye of the hurricane moving inland. We have this extreme wind warning. Ignore that precipitation rate. I'm not sure why that's showing up right now for you, but this extreme warning remains in effect for southern Sarasota County, continuing to get power outages being reported in Sarasota County now as just the northern fringe of that eye wall is starting to move out of Charlotte County into extreme southern Sarasota County right now. You see, kind of breaking off from that eye wall, we have a little band that's continuing to move north into northern Sarasota County right now. Another band racing up to the north and west. This is now moving into southern Hillsborough County. So areas up towards Ruskin, Sun City Center, this band is moving towards you. You'll likely get some wind gusts that are probably going to be up around 70 miles per hour, maybe a little bit stronger than that, as we see the eye pushing farther to the north. Same situation in Pinellas County. We see some of those outer bands now moving into Pinellas County. St. Pete Albert Whitted Airport, wind gusts right now at 56. At times we've seen excess of 60 mile per hour wind gusts. That's why we're starting to see some of those power outages being recorded across Pinellas County as well. Sarasota, wind gusts at 68 miles per hour. Venice now on that northern fringe of this expanding eye wall, now reporting wind gusts near 80 miles per hour. You know how I mentioned the sensors going out? Fort Myers out, Naples out, and we'll see if that happens in Venice, but certainly the worst of those conditions are going to be right there near the eye as it continues to push to the north and east. Just looking a little bit closer around the immediate Bay Area, a couple other features to point out here on the radar. I want to show you Lake Wales, certainly some gusty conditions there. No tornado warnings, though. We've seen a couple of tornado warnings for portions of the eastern part of the Tampa Bay area out towards Hardee, DeSoto, and Highlands County. No tornado warnings, but just straight up hurricane and tropical storm force winds. Maximum wind gusts that we've seen so far, these are going to go up for some portions up into northern Hillsborough County and Polk County, but Tampa International Airport reporting a 60 mile per hour wind gust about an hour ago. Downtown St. Pete's peaked out at 64, and then Venice now reaching its maximum wind gust so far at 79. We'll likely see that get up there closer to 100 miles per hour as this continues to move north. Watch Futurecast. This has actually done a pretty good job of tracking the center of the storm as it moves inland, likely over the next 30 minutes or so. We'll probably have that landfall declared. It'll continue north. But notice how all this rainfall is just going to continue to spin over the same area. Even though the storm is moving away, it will continue to throw more and more of those bands of heavy rain and gusty conditions into the Tampa Bay area. Northern Polk County, up into the Nature Coast from Pasco to Citrus County, still very heavy rainfall on the way along with those gusty conditions. It's a weird type of rain, I'm telling you, these tropical rains and these tropical bands, it's throwing the rain at you. It's going sideways. See, it's really hard to tell how much rain is coming down. Those raindrops are being shattered into tiny little pieces, so they're not those huge raindrops that we can typically see with those summertime thunderstorms. It's being sprayed, and there's just so much of it everywhere. It's such a, I mean, it's a hurricane, right? It continues to the north, and here we are tonight at around midnight, still that heavy rainfall persisting over northeastern Hillsborough County. It looks like by the time we get to midnight, the rain should begin to let up along with the wind, for that matter, in Pinellas County, but it'll be increasing through Orlando into the overnight through tomorrow morning. And I do think, guys, I do think probably by midday tomorrow, we'll begin to see things slowly wind down. And with that also, that northerly wind is going to bring back the water. A lot of our beaches, a lot of even our rivers, the Hillsborough River in downtown Tampa, a lot of our beaches through Pinellas County into Manatee County, seeing lower levels. The bay has been emptied in some places. We'll start to see all that come back a little bit as we go through the day tomorrow. I think we have a live video, some live pictures coming in here. Can you remind me where this is? This is from Fort Myers. Wow, let's just sit and watch and see what we can see here. I'm seeing this for the first time along with you. This is live out of Fort Myers. I see the palm trees. I mean, it's amazing they hang on, as many as they do, just hanging on to those powerful winds right in the eye of the hurricane. Those sailboats over on the right side of your screen, right behind the 10 Tampa Bay logo, are really whipping around there. I mean, just a ferocious scene, a scary scene. This is coming courtesy of Severe Studios, and you see me looking into the shot there, excuse me. Wow. I mean, there's not much to say, right, guys? I mean, it's, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just, my goodness.
Well, when the governor says generation-defining storm.
And it's true, and this is what we're talking about. You think about the storm surge threat there that we've been talking about all day, Grant, and walk us through here the timeline if you could.
Yeah, you know, and that's what we were looking at just a couple of days ago.
Yeah,
potentially.
well, that's, yeah.
You know, so you breathe a sigh of relief for some, you know, for our region, of course, and then just down the coast, 100 miles or so. And those are the conditions that they're dealing with now.
And a lot of us have family and friends down there.
Absolutely. And you know, and we're all very familiar with that area. What I'm showing you here is the forecast wind speeds that we can expect in St. Petersburg as we make our way through the next 72 hours here. And I mean, look, guys, I know this has been a theme. We've talked about the uncertainty in this forecast, and the forecast model is still struggling to say exactly where this storm is going to go. And one of the reasons for that is the fact that it rapidly intensified through this morning, and that has given us a hard time on figuring out exactly where the center of the storm was going to go, and ultimately where those strongest winds were going to go. So as we look at the forecast wind speeds for St. Petersburg through the afternoon into the evening, St. Pete, our wind speeds are likely going to continue to increase right now. So we've seen some power outages go up. If you're still able to watch us in St. Pete and Pinellas County, I've been saying this, make sure you're charged up, make sure you get everything charged up, plug everything in while you still can, and hook it all up, get it ready to go. And then if you lose power, it's probably going to come within the next 12 hours or so, because what we'll see is the wind speeds are going to gradually increase, right, through around midnight or so, maybe a little bit sooner according to the European model. But we'll likely begin to see those wind speeds then gradually decrease as we head through sunrise tomorrow morning, at which point as we go into tomorrow afternoon, that's when those wind speeds should begin to drop off through tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow evening. So that was the forecast for St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg will be a little bit later than what we see with those maximum wind gusts in Sarasota. We'll likely see Sarasota's wind gusts peak through 9 o'clock this evening, and then begin to gradually decrease on the backside of that eye as it moves to the northeast of Sarasota within the next 5 hours or so. More live pictures coming to you here. Looking out over Venice Fishing Pier. We were showing you some of these pictures earlier on, and looking, I mean, it's hard to tell. Obviously, we're looking out over the water there, but it's unrecognizable, truly, when you try to figure out where it is, and the persistent blowing of those winds.
Relentless, yeah.
It is. It is relentless. It's unforgiving.
And you hope that pier can hold. I don't know if that pier can hold out.
I'll tell you what, Grant, just oscillating between that image and what Josh is showing here on social media, these images of what is happening.
Some of the storm surge
outside,
yeah.
With this surge coupled with the wind, and then you sprinkle some anxiety in there because, you know, we don't know what we don't know.
It really is breathtaking, and I think driving home what Grant had said just a moment ago, you know, this, we all very much thought that this was going to be us just a short time ago, and it's so heartbreaking to see another community now being impacted in this way by this.
Right, and those images right there, of course, guaranteeing what officials promised earlier, imminent power outages, and so we know from hearing from Governor DeSantis moments ago, as we listened in on this, linemen from 27 different states in to fix this, but they can't do anything, obviously, at this hour because of the images that we've been showing you there, Grant.
And this isn't a quick-moving system either. So
it's going to be a minute.
As soon as the power goes out, as soon as the destruction happens, these men and women, these brave men and women, they want to come in and they really do want to start fixing things to try to get us back to normal. And God bless them for it. But they have to protect and put their safety at the forefront too.
Yeah.
So they've got to wait for the conditions to calm down, and in some places over Southwest Florida, that may not happen until tomorrow. And
42,000 dispatched here in 30 different areas from 27 different states. This is new video here from Fort Myers Beach.
Wow.
Courtesy of Severe Studios.
Again,
holy cow! Wow. So that was just a wave that crashed over the camera there.
Is that what that was? Oh my goodness.
That's what that was. That was just a huge swell that just came right over the camera.
Incredible that we're still able to get some of these live pictures, quite frankly, out of this area.
It's remarkable. A lot of these have just been posted up, right? And this isn't somebody standing there with the camera. These people that set these up, they do it well ahead of the storm. They set them up, and I don't know what type of hardware they have to be able to keep that from
getting
knocked down. But
we haven't really. It's rare to get a sort of a first-person view like this. I mean, this is really incredible. This is at water level there.
No doubt. Well,
guys, do we have any water levels down in Sanibel? I know we were looking at Naples earlier. Naples was pushing upwards to 9 feet, I think, if not higher than that. I've got to believe that this is upwards of 10 to 12 feet in Sanibel.
Yeah.
Well, this is Fort Myers Beach, sorry, Fort Myers Beach.
You showed the graphics right there, similar to what we see in the lower right corner.
Yeah.
But the video drives home what you've been stressing all morning long. The entire weather team talking about the problem that was to come, and well, this is that. We took the image away, but that's what we're talking about.
That's the reality.
That's the surge. The wind is sort of obscuring it, and the wind is ultimately what produces it. But that is the surge of the hurricane pushing all the water up in. I mean, just anywhere. If you say you're 10 feet above water, or above sea level, that hurricane is going to push that water until it can't go anymore. It's just going to keep on pushing it, and it's so flat down there that it just continues to blow that water farther and farther inland.
Okay, now this is Sanibel Island here, a different perspective, but same sort of situation.
Look at that tree there,
Josh. You see the blowing, you see that lone palm tree there. This is from, so this is not live, this is from just a few moments ago. You can see, it looks like debris maybe flying through the air
into
there.
the lens?
Yeah.
Sure
and obviously just...
This is heartbreaking.
You were saying, so the wind gusts there are sustained 100 miles per hour.
Yeah, we don't have a sensor.
We don't have a
there.
sensor.
There's not a sensor. No, not on Sanibel right now. But given that that's the eye or the eye wall of the hurricane moving, let me try to find a radar image here, and we can look at that. Guys, can we pull up the radar image for down near Sanibel where we're looking at that video, please?
So that eye wall, the most violent part of the winds there.
Yeah, it's right here. Well, here's Sanibel. So what we saw with the video was likely this part right here as it was moving ashore. Sanibel actually now, if we go back to that camera, if we're able to get video, we're going to go to Englewood first, but we might try to check back on a camera in Sanibel.
Here's Englewood. So this is south of Venice. This is Englewood area. You can at least make out a little bit of what's going on here, but still same kind of intense winds, intense blowing rain. You see debris. Looks like some kind of power line or something.
And more debris.
Wow.
And this is across a road there, it looks like, too. So again, look at all of this piling up in the road. So unsafe to be out at this time.
So this is the eye wall.
And this is
now,
the eye wall.
moving up into Englewood right now.
Okay.
Yes.
And so, like you said, in a short amount of time, this area will be relatively quiet as the eye comes through, and then it'll again pick up as the back side of the eye hits.
What's incredible is that not every part that actually goes through the eye is guaranteed that respite.
Oh, really?
In the center of the eye. If you're a little bit more to the north and west, like Sarasota County, you may go into the northern part of the eye, and as the storm moves more to the north and east, you might just stay in that northwesterly and then western side of that eye wall, remaining in the eye wall the entire time while the actual center of that eye goes off to your east and you miss it.
Okay.
So you could spend an extended period of time. Englewood's going to be very close to this. Englewood may not be guaranteed to actually see the eye move overhead. So they may just go through an hour or maybe even longer of these types of conditions.
Stuck in the worst of the conditions.
Absolutely.
Of the storm. Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So
wow.
We'll have to check that radar. In fact, I might go over.
Okay. So again, yeah, this is a live look at Englewood, south of Venice area. They are blowing winds, power lines, debris down in the street there. And again, I think the fact that we have these live pictures in some of these cases is incredible too.
And Josh, you know, some folks ask, I don't understand why. Why can't someone come and offer a helping hand? This
for those who choose to ride out.
Right, you know.
Well, this is why they tell you to get out of the way.
The experts, if you will, the people who do this every single day in terms of being trained to save lives, they can't risk their own to get out in the midst of something like this. It's, again, a live look there. Englewood, courtesy of Severe Studios, as we track Hurricane Ian.
It's interesting right now, just looking at the radar off camera, Englewood actually has wind speeds coming in out of the northeast. So closer to the beach there, it's blowing the water away. That's why you don't see water on the roads there.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So they're in that eye wall. The center of the eye is just to the south and east of Englewood right now. So you have the counterclockwise motion around that eye. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be stuck in the eye wall for probably, like I said, an hour or so, and more of this damage is likely going to continue to happen. The storm is moving around 10 miles per hour, but it's moving to the north and east. So it's more of a prolonged impact on the eye wall of the storm. If we could we switch over to Weather 1? I do want to show what we're generally talking about here. Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins has plotted some of the radar estimated wind speeds here, and you see the red is the wind that's blowing away from the radar site that's up in Ruskin, just to the north, way up here. And so you have the wind blowing this way, and then just on the other side of the eye, the wind is blowing this way. Now, the wind speeds are much, much stronger at the surface from what we're showing you here. This is all just radar estimated. So here's Captiva. You see it barely right there. There's Sanibel. Englewood. Bobby, are you able to zoom into Englewood real quick? Just right up here. Yeah. That right there, and that's the eye. So as we switch over to the reflectivity mode, you can see, there's the eye right there. There's our eye wall. And so it's slowly pushing in that direction. Let's go to Manatee County leaders speaking about conditions in Manatee County right now.
With a fire truck, bulldozer, bus, and EMS unit are staged at strategic locations around the county so that once the winds subside, they can make initial assessments and rescues if necessary, and then aid in our recovery efforts. Power outages. As of 2 p.m., Florida Power and Light is reporting 25,000 power outages with 4,300 restored. In utilities, 15% of the lift stations in the county don't have power. Lift stations are what lift the solid waste out of your sewer system and move it away. So when those lift stations are down, we can't move stuff away. So be sure you judiciously use the flushing mechanism when it's absolutely necessary. That will buy you some additional time. Keep in mind that our staff are in lockdown too. They are sheltering in safe places, so they are not getting out to address these issues when they arise. They will when it is safe to leave, when we also notify you that it is safe to leave. As we begin to prepare what happens after the storm, We want to remind all of our residents and visitors, when it's time to leave, turn around, don't drown. When you come upon standing water, do not drive through it unless you are absolutely certain of the depth and you're certain that a large pothole or sinkhole didn't get created underneath it. Best thing to do is detour around or turn around standing water in the road. Watch for down power lines. We have a number of down power lines already, and keep in mind, we are just dealing with tropical storm winds. We haven't even begun to get Category 4 hurricane winds. That is yet to come. There are traffic signals that are dangling. We can see that on our traffic cameras. There are down power lines. We have power in a number of county facilities, like the lift stations that is out. So you are going to wake up tomorrow to a very different landscape. Those of you that have generators, be sure those generators are being operated outside of your home where there is fresh air to exchange, and they are not near any kind of air intake coming into your house. Don't lift up your garage door and put your generator out in your garage. That will not get rid of all the carbon monoxide. Generators should only be run outside, away from any possibility of those fumes getting into your home. Do not venture out until the public officials notify you that it is safe to leave your home. The eye of this hurricane is quite large. There will be many areas underneath the eye where you will think the sun has come out and it's time to play. The sun will only be shining for a brief period of time, and it's going to be surrounded by an eye wall that is going to pass through a second time. So please, until we notify you or public officials in the county where you reside notify you that it's safe to leave your shelter or your home, do not. Stay in your home. Don't be a disaster tourist. Don't be a disaster tourist. There will be much work that must be done after the winds leave and we're able to get out and do our assessments. What will slow our efforts down is if everybody gets on the road, drives around to look for yourself about what damage has been done. That is a disaster tourist. Don't get out and ride your bike around and see what's going on, or your cars. Take care of whatever necessary business you need to take care of, and allow us as much freedom on the roads and the like to get the work done that we need to do to get our community back to where it was before the storm. You are putting yourself in harm's way if you venture out for the purposes of gawking at the damage. I know we're all going to be curious, but you've got great news coverage, you've got social media, you don't necessarily have to go out and see it for yourself. Now, if you want to stand in your own front yard and you don't have any down power lines, you don't have any down trees, you don't have a lot of standing water, that's fine. But please allow us to get in and do the work that needs to be done to make it safe for you, your neighbors, and your children to be back outside in our beautiful environment. Speaking of real helpers, I have sent a note to all Manatee County employees to be ready to deploy for rescue and recovery work as soon as it is safe to do so. All county employees. Not just those ones that may be assigned to the EOC or those that have utility jobs, but I have asked every single employee, and we're 2,000 plus, to be ready and available as soon as the winds subside so that we can deploy every person in Manatee County government that is able, physically able, to contribute to the recovery effort to be available sometime around 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. Utilities, you're going to notice this is going to degradation in utilities. As I mentioned, the lift stations are out. We have potable water lines that are out as well. Hopefully you followed the guidance that we put out every year before hurricane season to have water stored and ready to drink. If you doubt at all the water that is coming out of your faucet, if it doesn't look right, it doesn't smell right, don't drink it. Drink the bottled water that you save for these efforts. There are going to be disruptions in your life. It's an act of God, and we're going to get to work as soon as possible to recover and restore those systems. Chief, would like to add anything?
Thank you, Dr. Hopes. Just a couple of comments. You mentioned about Florida Power and Light. Peace River is reporting about 10,000 outages, and those are mostly East County, North County, so they also have outages. One thing I want to remind everybody, as long as they got power, plug in your cell phone, plug in your laptop, get a power to that device. Because you lose electricity doesn't mean the cell tower hasn't. So those devices, charge them up. If you have rechargeable flashlights, keep those charged at this time. But again, listen to us when it's safe to return. We don't want anyone injured or die right after the storm. Statistics show more people are injured and die after the storm than during the storm. So please take our heed, pay attention, be safe. Thank you, Dr. Oaks.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, Dr. Oaks, can you kind of talk about a little bit more about the staff that you've asked to volunteer for rescue efforts? What can civilian employees do to help?
So, you know, any number of things. There are, first of all, communications. Taking those 311 calls. You can imagine the exponential increase in calls we're going to have to deal with, and so we can utilize employees for that. Assisting with debris pickup, and really just rolling up our shirt sleeves and getting out there and getting to work and doing the work that matters for all of the residents in Manatee County. We're all going to have to pitch in together, and I will ask Community and Veteran Services to be prepared to take volunteers from the general community who want to come together in an organized fashion to assist with this, because we're going to have everything from just basic cleanup, debris that will need to be picked up. We engaged 4 contractors before the storm to be available to begin that cleanup effort. And so we didn't risk just contracting with one. We contracted with 4 different companies to get in and help clean things up. But as we move forward through the weeks to come, we will be working in an organized fashion to deploy employees where the need is greatest, and to organize a process whereby members of the community who have some time and would like to assist in the recovery effort can work through the county to do so.
Where would those people go that want to get involved and help?
I'll get with the Director of Community and Veteran Services to come up with a mechanism to get people to register and where to meet. It's going to take us a few days to get organized, but based on these early reports of the damage that's already being done with just a tropical storm winds, and keep in mind, we haven't gotten the water storm surge yet. That's going to come as the hurricane passes and goes to our north. That's when the water's going to come in, and we're going to see a lot more flooding and a lot more disruption there.
Any other tips for people staying at home?
Okay, it doesn't get any.
Just bear with it. If you have children and you've got board games, keep everybody entertained. It is going to be at least probably 10 o'clock tomorrow before the winds subside. But keep in mind what I've been saying all along. Wait until we notify the public it is safe to go outside. Just because the winds have died down doesn't mean it's safe to go outside. There are going to be down power lines. There are going to be trees that are down. There will be sharp debris. There will be broken glass, there'll be sheet metal. Anything that you can imagine that wasn't tied down or secured is going to be blown someplace. And so it is not going to be safe immediately once the winds subside. Give us an opportunity to ensure that the areas are safe before you venture too far out of your own yard. All right, thank you all. I know you've been riding this with us, so but it's going to be a long night. It's going to be a long night. All right, thanks. The good news is it's moving a little bit
The
faster.
big news alert there
So we're
from
looking
Manatee County officials, and you can see it on the bottom of the screen, that public works staff there have informed them that the Bradenton wastewater plant is at risk of overflowing.
On the brink of overflowing. The warning doesn't get any more concrete than what you see right there on the bottom of your screen there. They're urging people to flush judiciously.
Yeah, conserve water. So, this isn't the time to be doing dishes or laundry there. Flushing, only when necessary. Don't limit your showers if you can.
Sure.
Anything that you can do at this point to not put further stress on this system, given that it is at a really critical state at this point, talking about the Bradenton sewage plant there. And then, another important point, too, from officials just now, why you still have power. And we
Charge
talked
your
about this.
devices.
Make sure your devices are plugged in so that you can still have that
Sure.
even when power goes out, because cell service doesn't necessarily go out when you lose power.
Well, and that is in Manatee County there, but a similar warning in Polk County, conserve the water. Yeah, I want to bring that up right there. So limit water usage during and after the storm. Polk County Utilities asking that you do this. Turn off your outdoor irrigation systems if you haven't already done that. Avoid running dishwashers and washing your clothes right about now, and limit the amount of water used during a shower if you can. Just all out avoid that.
Yeah, and if you don't have to flush, don't have to again, because the systems are just being incredibly strained right now given the conditions out there. So that's Polk County, Manatee County as well. That is the word from county officials there. You want to go back to just a few things if you're just joining us here. Josh Sidorowitz alongside Frank Wiley. We mentioned earlier too, conditions are worsening down south. We've been showing you some of the live pictures from Fort Myers, from Naples area. We do know that Naples, as of maybe about 30 minutes ago, there was an emergency citywide curfew in effect there. We know a little closer to home in Venice, they've cut off, like we've seen a lot of counties doing. They're saying we're not sending out emergency crews anymore because of the wind gusts. It's just not safe. And so, where you're at is where you're going to be at.
And you mentioned those devices, this right here, right? So keeping up with things on Twitter with the county warnings. Manatee County, put this out about 3 hours ago, announcing the county has been locked down. Shelters, I should say, had shut their doors in advance of the storm. And an important piece of sound there. We were told by Dr. Scott Hopes just a moment ago, keep in mind, our staff is in lockdown too. So they're going to do the best they can, but right about now, from the images we showed you prior to this news conference, they can't get out in that.
No. Also wanted to go back to something too. I think this is really relevant to anyone watching, no matter where you're at this point, because talking about this is the time to be sheltering in place.
Sure.
And during the governor's press conference earlier that we had live, they were talking about the shelter in place survey that you could fill out that would really help sort of the state just have critical info for first responders if God forbid they have to come and maybe rescue.
It helps
or
delineate
get to.
who may need some help a little sooner than others.
So floridadisaster.org/info, floridadisaster.org/info, and that is where you can fill out that shelter-in-place survey, which could be a critical piece for first responders.
All great information. We want to get out to Wesley Chapel, where we find our Liz Crawford with an update on the situation out there. Hey, Liz.
And unfortunately, it looks like we are having a little bit of an audio issue with Liz.
Yeah, we'll get back with her momentarily.
So, control room is going to work on getting that fixed, because we certainly would like to hear what she had to say. You look at her, we've been checking in with her in Pasco County, and it wasn't too long ago she was talking about the sideways rain had come in. and wind had really picked up there, and then now it looks relatively calm. Just the nature of these bands as they come through. All right, can you help us out? What are we looking at live here, control room? This looks obviously further south, perhaps the Naples or Fort Myers area. Grant, any? This is Fort Myers. Okay.
This is Fort Myers. And that is a live shot
Fort Myers
right there
Beach.
as well. You see the trees whipping in the wind there. Grant, how strong were those winds, as you alluded to this earlier?
Well, you know, we lost the weather instruments down in Fort Myers Beach.
That strong.
So, yeah, but you know, the Iowa wind speeds are estimated to be up around 100, and we've seen gusts up around 126 miles per hour in that area. So
Sure.
I'd imagine that that's probably something similar to what they're experiencing right now. So certainly stronger than 100 miles per hour. Sustained winds are above 100 miles per hour as well.
You know, you can see it looks like just behind our map graphic there, what looks to be sailboats that are really, there we go, better
Couldn't
look
make
there.
out what that was.
Massive
Okay.
from sailboats that are really rocking there on the bottom right side of the screen. I don't know if it looks like they've even maybe been pushed into shore possibly. It's hard to make out.
Yeah, you never know. How were those boats left? Were they left off? Were they anchored somewhere, and did they come off their moorings,
Right.
or you know, were they somehow maybe pinned up against the dock there, kind of allowing the dock to brace them a little bit?
Right. Yeah. Either way, though, you can certainly see just the intense wind and rain down there. All right, so that's further south. Let's go back up north, Wesley Chapel, Pasco County, where Liz Crawford should be ready now. Hey, Liz, can you hear us? Can we hear you?
Hopefully you guys can hear me
We got
now,
you.
right? So yes, I have been all around the county since 3 a.m. this morning. I am hearing myself, guys, if you can fix that. So Pasco County, huge county. We've been to Hudson Beach, we've been to Newport Richey, and now we're here in Wesley Chapel. So let me just kind of explain to you the difference in the conditions that I have been witnessing over the last couple of hours here. So before kind of this morning, 3 a.m., closer to noon, it was more of just a consistent rain. Now we're really starting to feel those windy conditions, and the rain, again, it's turning sideways on you and it's whipping down. And I'll tell you, it's something so unique about covering hurricanes is when it's actually coming down. I always find myself thinking, oh, this isn't so bad. This isn't so bad. Well, look around. So when we drove into this resort, I mean, there's debris all over the roadways. So you're looking at the palm tree fronds and all of this kind of just this debris that just gets knocked off of all of the trees. And it's all over kind of the backyard here where it's all over the furniture, and it's nothing out of this world. So we don't have furniture turned over or things like that, but it's enough that when you get out of your car, you're stepping into water, it's up to your ankles in low-lying areas. So it's these, you know, massive puddles, things like that. So also obviously a good indicator now is when you just kind of see the trees blowing just a little bit. I mean, take a look at those trees. If you can show that, Sasan, they're just, it's actually, the trees are just blowing ever so slightly. It's that wiggle that we're seeing now. We weren't seeing that earlier. So we know that these are strong winds that are coming in here. And again, the rain is picking up, and it's that sideways, that pelting rain. It's these tiny little raindrops, but they hit you really, really hard, and that's those hurricane bands. And you know, our meteorologists will be talking about what stage of the hurricane we're in, where it's at, and you feel those effects when you're out here for a long period of time because you feel the change. So my advice to you, we're back to the place where we are going to be staying, and my advice to you now is not the time to go outside and take those pictures. We're actually keeping my cameraman inside undercover. We're in a good, safe structure so that I know I can duck inside if I need to. But really the point here is you just can, if you're driving right now, there's going to be some of that standing water. You're going to run into debris. More and more I'm hearing about people losing power. So that just gives you the indication that the winds really are becoming dangerous. So again, before I let you go here, I'm in Wesley Chapel. Pasco County is prepared. They've got 50-some people at their emergency services operation. If you have questions, they want you to call them. Go to mypasco.net. It's got all the information, all the emergency numbers, everything that you could possibly need. But I did just want to show you what it looks like out here, because I can tell you the ground, super saturated.
That's what we were talking about in here.
Ground. We've got debris down already. The rain now is consistent. The wind is consistent, and now we've got the wind gusts. So
And
that's what we're seeing here in Pasco County. Again, let us go out. We'll do the dirty work for you. You stay put. You take care of one another.
All right,
Pasco County, Liz Crawford, 10 Tampa Bay.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Liz.
Appreciate
That saturation with the ground, and then the strong winds.
Well, and that's bad news, obviously, for trees.
Yeah.
And we've already gotten reports of trees down because of that. So Liz Crawford live for us in Wesley Chapel. Thank you. We've been talking about the storm surge threat. Sorry. First, we want to go to this, because this is new video just in from
So
Naples.
this just came. It's not live. It just came in.
No, this is just video here from moments ago. Naples, you can see a backyard there, significant amount of water. It looks like someone's shooting it through the screen.
Yeah,
presumably
from
of their
a
home.
safe space. The winds whipping the trees back and forth right there, in every which direction. And again, the frightening part is you have the saturated grounds. Again, coupled with that wind. It sounds like a broken record, but that is the situation. You know, a lot of people tuning in via live stream as well because of the electrical problems. Some people hitting me up as well as I'm away from the desk asking, what is storm surge? Some folks new to the area.
Well, right, and we've been talking about the threat that was forecasted for this area. Now that threat has moved further south with storm surge. So I want to walk you through explaining a little bit more about what it is and how it works. So watch this.
To refresh your knowledge, storm surge is quite literally a surge of water being pushed ashore by the force of a storm's wind. In many cases, storm surge is more dangerous because of the power of the moving water and the coastal flooding potential it brings. 1 to 3 feet of water can knock you off your feet and stall your car. Above 3 feet, that water can actually carry your car away. If you're still home when the water gets up to 6 feet, you and your family would have to seek higher ground, like a second story or roof. A 12-foot surge would fill the entire first floor of most homes and potentially knock your home off of its foundation. So, it's important to listen for and to understand the storm surge warnings so you can react early and quickly to keep you and your family safe.
Make it make sense there with a little bit of a graphic that kind of drives the point home for folks.
And how serious
Yes.
it can be. The opposite of storm surge is what we're seeing now in our area here, where the water is being pulled out. It's, notably here along Bay Shore, which is where, 10 Tampa Bay's
My
Malik
goodness.
Rankin is right now. Malik, unreal to see that.
Yeah, conditions here have changed in this area. We were out here on Bayshore Boulevard just a few hours ago, and you can take a look and see just how much the waters have receded in this area. We've seen the difference of just a few hours of how much that water has come out. And even in the distance here, you can see a couple of islands have basically submerged from this area from the water getting sucked out through here. Now, conditions you can see as these trees are shaking here. It's pretty windy. We've had consistent rainfall in this area as well. And there's people here checking out everything for themselves. You know, I talked to somebody who was out here saying that he was on his lunch break. It was something to do. Talked to somebody else who said that they were feeling brave. That's why they came out here. Well, I'm telling you, if you're feeling brave, this is an evacuation zone. Police will probably shorten your visit. In the last few hours since we've been here, we've been talking with officers patrolling this area, telling people to leave. This is an evacuation zone for here. And you can see even the force of the winds that we're already seeing in this area. We've got some palm leaves on the floor, on the sidewalk here, and some tree branches down as well. This is a lot of what the Tampa Bay streets look like right now. They're polka dotted in palm leaves and other debris for this area. We watched as the street lights are swaying with the wind through here. And just wanted to give you one last look here at the bay as so much water has been pulled out from this area. And you know, one of the concerns that Mayor Jane Castor raised is that the scene isn't going to stay like it is right now. And that's when we'll start to worry for this area once that water comes back, and it comes back hard through this area. Now we'll be heading back over to the Emergency Operations Center in Tampa, where we'll get some more updates from the mayor, from the police chief, from the fire chief, and in that area, they have just about every city official you could imagine. They've got water, sewer, Tampa Electric. They're expecting widespread outages across Tampa for the area. So they're working with TECO now, trying to get ahead, trying to plan as to, if they need to shut off equipment ahead of time so that it can help them in the long run, so that equipment isn't damaged when the storms come through this area. And as we're hearing from the police chief as well, they're upping charges for anybody that is looting or robbing in this area. She did tell us that last night 2 arrests were made in the IKEA parking lot. They told us that they found 2 people that had equipment on them, walkie-talkies, other gear, looking to make some bad decisions at IKEA. Both of those people were charged accordingly for this. And as we heard from the fire chief as well, they're really looking to make sure that when you're home, you're staying safe. And if you lose power, knowing the dangers that could happen if you're lighting candles and you're leaving them unattended, if you have a fire extinguisher, know where it is, know how to access it, and don't wait to make these decisions until it's too late. I'll send it back to you guys in the studio here, but conditions in Tampa, they've stayed steady. We've seen the winds come up and down, but one thing I can tell you that's been a huge difference is the water levels here on the bay.
And back again, just worth showing. And
yeah, let's take a look.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we already saw on social media some people climb down there.
Oh no,
and
that's not what you want to do.
That's not what you do, because this water eventually will return.
We take it beyond the wild, Josh, though. It looks like a swimming pool that has been drenched.
There's a staircase that's right down this way. If we can zoom in on this staircase, we saw some folks that were in this area trying to make their way down here, and that's not safe. We have police in this area that could be using their time better, but they're having to come to this area to tell people, don't do that.
That's a good point too, Malik. Police have other things to worry about right now. We can't tell. Is anyone down there right now? I sure hope not. I can't. Doesn't look like it.
Oh yes. Go ahead and pan to the right, Daisy. We've got a guy with a golf cart, dog on the back, somebody taking some videos in this area.
But they're not. Okay. Yeah. I don't see anyone at least down on those steps. But yeah, not smart to go down there. Please don't do that. But incredible to see it nonetheless. Malik Rankin live for us along Bay Shore, watching as that water is being pulled out of the bay.
That's ominous, right?
It is, but it's certainly a better scenario than what we initially thought was going to happen here, and really unbelievable to see. Nonetheless.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you, Malik, for that, and an update too from police there, and she's been talking to Tampa's mayor as well. We want to go a little further north now.
A little farther north to Clearwater Beach. Do we have an image there to show you? Is that a live image, or that is live?
All right, so you can see the white caps kicking up there. A little bit of rain on the lens. Admittedly, doesn't look too bad at the moment, but we're going to start to see those conditions there deteriorate.
It's all relative, right?
Deteriorate here soon enough as well, as those waves again really start to pick up and the storm those bands start to move up even more into our area. Live look there at Clearwater Beach right now. All right, let's go back to Tampa. We've got Jenny Dean live there right now. She's had a pretty good vantage point.
Yes, she has.
Of downtown all day. Hey, Jenny, how's it looking there now?
And how's it feeling?
Hey guys, having a little trouble hearing you right now through my earpiece, but I just kind of want you to take a look at this vantage point. This is Channelside, Water Street behind me. Just look at these clouds. Look at that. You can really see them moving. Now, I am on the south side of the building, so I am protected from a lot of the wind gusts that are blowing through here, a lot of the rain bands, because they're kind of blowing over here. And since I am on sort of the protected side of this building, so I've seen quite a few pretty strong rain bands going through here on both sides. So it is pretty significant that it has picked up the wind gusts throughout the day and the rain. And that is the reason that local emergency officials and authorities are saying stay home. Right now is the time where you need to stay at home. Don't go out. don't start sightseeing. There are a lot of downed trees out in Hillsborough County. It is causing some power outages, and you don't know, especially downtown, a good wind gust could come through and blow down some power lines, and you may not see it, and it could be a real danger for you. So this is something that is only going to progressively get worse as we go throughout the evening, and as it does get dark, we could see spotty power outages through Tampa and Hillsborough County. So you're going to want to be prepared for that and be at home and stay where you are. Quit going out and sightseeing. Tampa police have already tweeted, they've been on social media. Hillsborough County authorities out in the county are saying the same thing. They just want everyone to be safe and make it through this. You know, we seem to have dodged sort of the worst part of this hurricane, but conditions will get worse. So let's not make it unsafe for ourselves by going out. So again, I'm in a protected area, but just to give you that vantage point, you can really see how quickly those clouds are moving. And as you can see, that's on Water Street and Chancellor. And listen, you can hear the winds just roaring kind of all around me. It's kind of like a distant roar or distant thunder. So definitely something you guys, that people need to be aware of when they're out and about. I'll put you back here. I'm not going to be able to hear your question because I'm still having some problems with my earpiece if you have any other questions. But for now, reporting live in Tampa, Jenny Dean, 10 Tampa Bay.
Not a problem there. Jenny Dean, of course, giving us some insight from her vantage point, elevated space as well there in downtown Tampa. Obviously, no issues with storm surge for her.
The speed of those clouds moving. No, thank goodness we're not dealing with storm surge here. But I want to bring in Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins because talking about how storm surge works, I think some people picture, I know I did, and if you're new here, like a wall of water. Yeah. And that's not what storm surge is. It's not how it works, Bobby.
Generally not. No, typically what will happen is it'll slowly increase in the levels. Because when this thing was down here well offshore, down here, it was still blowing winds off to the north and the northeast, right? So that's been pushing water for days. That's why if you saw yesterday afternoon, Key West saw, well, at least the third highest tide that they've ever seen down there on the southernmost point, because it was pushing water up towards it, and that was just constantly rising the tides across southwest Florida. The key that we were concerned about in the Tampa area the last 36, 48 hours was where does that center go, because the highest storm surge is going to be right on the bottom side of that, because that's got the highest wind. And earlier in the week, this thing was coming in up towards Hernando, Pasco border. And that's almost worst case scenario for us, because if you had this centered here, you would be pushing water right up into the bay. And we were looking at nearly 15 feet of water in the Oldsmore area as a result of that. It did go to the south, now they get it. So let's talk a little bit about storm surge. Essentially, it's the wind from the storm driving the water. It literally pushes it. And it's one of the main killers that we have if you're not evacuated. So it'll push that water up along the coast. And so there's a bunch of different factors. On the west coast of Florida, we're like this. We're really shallow. You go out 35 miles, it's only 50, 55, 60 feet deep. You go 6 miles off the east coast of Florida, and it's about 80, 100 feet, right? It just drops off very quickly. So when wind is trying to blow in this direction, it's a lot easier to blow it up that hill on our coast than it is on the east coast. And we're not very high above sea level. Now, most of storm surge is the wind. There's a little bit of a bubble that happens from the lower pressure in the center, but that's kind of negligible. But if you look at that wave, is what it is, and Josh, you were saying you thought it was just a big wave. This is rising before this even gets here. And this really is just more and more water. Now, that's just the water level. The winds are blowing 70, 80, 90, 100 miles per hour. We've had gusts to 126 down in Pine Island, this area I'm going to show you. That makes waves on top of this surge. And those are 6, 7, 8 feet tall. So it's a combination of things. There's the low pressure that I said, so the water can kind of bulge up a little bit, but that's not a big deal. But you see all of this move on shore. That's what causes all the damage. You're going to see Sanibel, Fort Myers, Pine Island. They will be covered with sand, the entire island. Fort Myers Beach, probably going to be one of the hardest hit spots out of all of this, because we were forecasting the highest surge for them. This is what the forecast looks like, and you can see this is the center line of the storm, right? So imagine it's going counterclockwise here, so it's been blowing water up into all these locations down here. And all of the reds that you see there is better than 9 foot of storm surge expected. So that is a ton of it. Now, this is Pine Island. Pine Island, we've been seeing wind gusts of 126 miles per hour. We just saw one of 111. Fort Myers Beach is right here, and that's likely going to get one of the hardest hit spots. Sanibel took it right on the chin. I mean, that is just coming in just right across the southeast part of the island right there. On the top side, up towards Englewood, as Grant was showing you, it's blowing offshore because that's the northern side of the eye. But this is anywhere from 12 to 18 foot of storm surge expected in that area. And that is why you see the seriousness of those emergency management officials saying, please, if you're asked to evacuate, get out of there. It's very, very dangerous. Naples, I saw 9 foot. Now, that's not downtown, but that's, I think, especially south of there. Marco Island's going to get a bunch as well. You can see the yellow there. That's most of the area on the island. That's about 3 feet. But a lot of those resorts that have pools looking out over the beach, if they're not up high, they probably got salt water in them right now because they had a lot of water pushing in there. Things will actually get better for those areas as we move through later in the day. Now, there's the big picture again. There's Sanibel right there, Fort Myers Beach right there. You can see it's coming on right now. The tornado box, this is a watch that goes in effect through 5 o'clock, but this will continue to move up. We're going to be watching these cells here. You see we've got a tornado warning over on the East Coast, but we'll be watching these cells moving through Polk County now just the next couple of hours and see if they want to produce a tornado or not. There's the track. So the winds will start to come down. God, we're still sitting at 155 mile per hour winds. Look, it was forecast yesterday to go from 120 to 130 and then make landfall. And it went from 120 to 155 in 3 hours early this morning. That's incredible. That's rapid intensification, but that's really rapid intensification. It will fall apart quickly as well. So we've got this afternoon coming down to 120. That's happening right now. It will be weakening soon. But then by tomorrow morning, it's a tropical storm with 70 mile per hour winds out near Orlando. So this has to go right through Polk County. That's where we're going to see some of the highest winds in our area. But then it's not done. It's actually going to go up off the coast and then back in south of Beaufort, North Carolina, or South Carolina, excuse me, Beaufort.
No, man, I'm good.
And then it's going to move up through the lowland and then the highlands of South Carolina towards Charlotte. It will be weakening. It's more like a rain situation for them, but they're going to have to deal with this as well too. Because the track shifted yesterday and really the day before, hurricane warnings have gone all the way up and across all the way to the Space Coast now. Cape Canaveral, hurricane warning. Up towards Daytona, hurricane warning. Tropical storm warnings actually spreading out. So you have a high amount of wind around the eye. When it goes on shore, it starts to weaken a little bit, right? Well, that wind literally starts to spread out. It comes down, but now instead of having those really high winds right around the center, you start spreading out more and more wind. And so now everybody's getting at least tropical storm force winds, hurricane force winds right around the immediate center. So what I like to do is, normally when you see us track these, I don't put that center line in there. That line is the line that the Hurricane Center thinks that this is going to travel. And because we're able to look at this on radar now, you can plot that line and then watch the radar and say, hey, is it moving to the right? Is it moving to the left a little bit? Kind of give you an idea if it's on track, right? So one other thing you can do with that is you can go ahead and look at all of the rainfall that's back here. So that's going to be one of the major issues on the north side of it. You see all this rain that's here? That's on the north side. You can literally follow it right up as it moves through Manatee, Hillsborough, obviously Sarasota County, Polk County as well too. And so I think it's going to be this area here along and east of I-75 that's going to get the most rain. And we're talking 15, 25 inches of rainfall somewhere in there. I think 25 is on the high side, but there will be some spots that get that much. So that's flooding that happens right away, obviously, when it's raining heavy over a short amount of time. But also remember that water is going to go into the rivers, and they're really going to flood as we get into the weekend and next week. Next week, the weather, this weekend and next week, the weather is going to be absolutely beautiful. The rivers will be flooding at that time. There will be people that have to evacuate some of the rivers. So we're going to be on top of that for you. There's one of the forecast models, and you can see where the core of that heaviest rainfall will be going over the next 24 hours. By tomorrow, midday into the afternoon hours, the core of this is moving away. We will start to dry things up, and we'll actually drag in a little bit of drier air, guys.
All right, thank you, Bobby, for that. So, getting a lot of reports here of downed lines and trees. We've got one in Riverview apparently blocking the entire road at Big Bend in Shelby. Sure. It's a power line and downed tree. Riverview. We just have this picture that we just got in. There it is. So that is a tree on a house. This is in St. Petersburg. This is the Lynn Lake area. So if my
No.
memory serves me, that's southern Pinellas County.
No word on in South St. Pete there, okay, so no word on who may have been inside sheltering because of this storm at the time, but as you can imagine, trying to do the right thing. But we talk about the oversaturation of the ground, and we've had rain in the past, and you couple that with the winds, and you get the trees toppling.
Let's hope that's certainly an evacuation
Yeah.
area, so let's hope that they did get out of there, that no one was in that house. And then we also just got this video in of a shed. This is Sarasota there. Well, it's now, they say, in the front yard, and may have hit the roof as well. My goodness. Okay, that's coming in from our Miranda Parnell down there. Pieces of a shed that have been blown about. And you can see the wind whipping there on the trees and the palm fronds.
See the comment there, that shed that was rocking? It's in our front yard now.
Right, right.
It doesn't take long for something like that to happen when you have intense, violent winds like that.
So that was Sarasota. Also in Sarasota right now, we've got Jennifer Titus, who is live there. Jen, conditions there deteriorating? What can you tell us?
Yeah, Josh, they've been deteriorating by the minute out here. I stood on these exact same roads for Hurricane Irma, and I can tell you, I don't remember the sounds that I've been hearing over the past hour, the loud hissing sounds when those big wind gusts come through from Hurricane Ian. You can see really the impact of those wind gusts with just how much the leaves are blowing here. One of the trees just barely hanging on by a thread right there. That's why they're asking people to please do not be outside, hunker in place. That's what emergency officials have done because the wind gusts are too strong for anybody to be out on the roads right now. I just saw in Manatee County, they're asking people to kind of conserve the water, that their sewage systems are very close to overflowing. Down in Venice, they've turned off potable water, and they're not going to turn it back on to residents down there until these wind gusts go down below 45 miles per hour. But that is just not happening anytime soon, unfortunately, because these wind gusts continue to get stronger and stronger. Thankfully, the hotel we are at, we have power. It keeps on flickering on and off, and it is full of evacuees because they know if they stayed home, they would be without power right now because they were in one of those evacuation zones, the A and the B, but we are still hearing thousands of people without power right now. In Manatee and Sarasota County, you can see these wind gusts. My photographer behind the camera getting pushed by the wind gusts that are coming through. We have a concrete wall that we're standing right in front of to protect us, but you can still see how strong these wind gusts are here in Sarasota. And again, while they're just asking anybody, do not go outside right now, do not go on the roads, hunker in place until the worst of these winds and the worst of this storm is over. Then of course, they'll be watching this rain and this water and of course the fears of flooding that you guys are talking about after this wind leaves us.
Titus doubling down on that warning from Manatee and Polk County. Do we still have her live shot? I want to ask her something really fast there because I know she's been in that parking lot throughout the morning with us, just giving us an update on that situation. Jen, are you still with? Okay, so I know you spoke with some of the people at that hotel earlier, some of whom have, been through multiple storms. What is some of the feedback they are offering you between live shots? Because you say you've never heard anything like this with the wind.
And she might. Okay, yeah, I think she's having trouble hearing it just because the wind is
difficult situation
picking up.
out there.
But I remember she was talking earlier to a man. He said he and his wife had been in the area 25 years at least, and they were not complacent. They took the warning seriously.
Thankfully.
They evacuated, to that hotel, which is good.
No doubt.
All right, I think we're going to try now to get Sarah Rosario, who is in Hernando County, where the wind is picking up. All right, we're working on still getting that signal here up in Hernando County. In the meantime, obviously, Sarasota much closer to a lot of those outer bands from the storm, which is why you are seeing the conditions you are there now. All right, Sarah Rosario live in Hernando County for us right now, Sarah, where the winds are picking up even there, far north.
The wind is picking up here in Hernando. All morning long, we've been anticipating this to arrive. And this is what local leaders have been warning people about, the possible outer band impacting things.
All right, so we're having little audio issues there, and this is what happens when our equipment gets wet. It's out in the rain, so we're going to try and get that fixed.
We'll get her back momentarily. She was alluding to the outer bands there. Of course, at times, you notice stronger gusts of winds versus other times when you're standing out there.
We talked about how massive this storm is. Yes. There's been a lot of comparisons to Charlie, but even the governor earlier said this is so much bigger than Charlie was all those years ago. And think about how far north Hernando is, and they're still getting this. All right, let's see if we can go back to Sarah in Hernando. Can we hear you now, Sarah?
Is that better? Should be off.
Yep.
That is
go
better.
Ahead.
Hey, Josh and Frank. We are now starting to feel a lot of the impacts of Hurricane Ian here as the outer bands start reaching Hernando County. This is what local officials were warning us about, the impacts of rain coming down and impacting things like power and the possibility of downed trees covering roadways. That's why they're telling people, you know, these evacuation orders are still in place for a reason, mandatory evacuation orders in place for people who live in the low-lying areas and along the water. Evacuations for zones A, B, and C still in place here in Hernando County because those are the areas that are prone to flooding. They still have deputies blocking off places like Hernando Beach, like Arapica, all in an effort to try to keep people safe. We have shelters that are available as well, and as we continue to follow the impacts of the storm, while we're not a direct hit, these are things that local officials are warning people about, and they're monitoring the area, and sheriff deputies are still driving around to see how they can help people and make sure that people get out safely and are staying safe during the storm. So we're going to continue to be here in Hernando County. We talked to emergency management. They're telling people that if you do get power, if you lose power, you need to have a NOAA radio. And then they're also warning people that even though the water may seem like it's low and it's available, you are able to drive through it. Don't drive through standing water because, as you know, it can seem like you're capable of driving through it, but then you know that your truck can just wash out from underneath you and the road can just wash out. So these are things that they're telling people to do, is to heed the warnings and to be mindful of the situation right now. Even though we're not a direct hit here in Hernando County, there still is a risk of a lot of things. So they're telling people to heed the warnings and to stay safe, guys.
All right, and you stay safe as well, Sarah, there in Hernando, and we know that she's got a lot of family and friends up there in Hernando, too. So Sarah Rosario live for us. Want to go back live now to this shot that we've been showing you periodically here today. This is Englewood, Florida. So this is south of Venice area, north of Captiva, though, so kind of right in the middle. And actually, Grant was saying earlier, right on the edge of that eye wall that is moving through right now with Ian.
That is where you find the most violent part of the wind on that eye wall. It looks to be a power line right there at the top center of your screen. This is exactly why officials tell you after this passes, as tempting as it may seem to just get out and about and see what's going on, avoid those areas because you've got all types of debris that, as you see right there, has been tossed about. No idea what that is in the road. Some of the items you can make out, the rest of it, no clue. And it looks to be a truck, a pickup truck right there in the distance there.
Oh, parked on the side of the road. I hope that no one is in that truck.
And you can only hope that tree doesn't topple right there in front of it.
You can see the amount of debris in the road, too, washed in there. And Grant was saying, too, so this is sort of the edge of the eye wall is in this area right now, and the way the storm was spinning, it could sort of, the edge of that eye wall could sit on this, be constantly on this area for quite a while, and just, you think about the harsh conditions of that part of the storm, that's why you're seeing what you're seeing there on the screen.
And Josh, we tell people to heed the warnings, go to a shelter, maybe even book a room in a hotel. Well, some folks tried to do that. Do we have the image of this right here? Because sometimes it's easier said than done. We're actually efforting trying to get a hold of this picture that I want to show you as people sheltered into the hotel. There it is. They had some issues, Josh.
Oh my goodness.
Trying to close the door.
And this is from Fort Myers. This is a hotel in Fort Myers. So obviously we're there getting the brunt of the storm right now.
Look at that door. Those doors, I should say.
and certainly a scary situation for the people there. You can see them holding those panes in place because you can imagine how strong the winds are. It looks like those are several maybe news vehicles there. There's probably news crews that are
when
stationed.
the inside starts to look kind of like the outside. You saw the plants whipping in the wind.
Yeah, wow. So again, that is new video there. That's a hotel in Fort Myers. I'm sorry I don't have the details on which hotel and where exactly that is, but pretty incredible to see them holding those doors in place like that.
All right, well, everybody, survival is a team effort, right?
Yes. Want to get now back up here in our area in St. Petersburg. We've got Chris Rogers.
Chris Rogers.
And Chris, you're at the pier right now no, you were at the pier. I'm sorry. Tell us where you're at right now in St. Pete.
Yeah, Josh, right now we crossed Pinellas County. We're on the other side, on the Gulf side, just down the street here from St. Pete Beach. We did stop by the beach just a moment ago, and it really didn't look all that different. But what we did know when we were driving around, what we did notice is damage. Look at this. This is an area that has already seen some flooding, and there's a big, large, uprooted tree that has partially lifted a fence out of the ground in the backyard of a home. Some of the fence panels have come down as well, and this is kind of a common sight around here right now. It looks like they've got some big, heavy gusts. We felt them over the past half an hour, 20 minutes or so, and you can see that moving in right now. So just look at the movement of those trees. We're seeing more gusts and less sustain than we were able to see on the other side near the St. Pete Pier. But I will say this, there is certainly more debris in this area. You're seeing the down palm fronds, which I know is a pretty common sight right now across the Bay Area where that heavy wind gusts are going on across the area. But certainly a lot more damage on this side, obviously a lot more exposure to the Gulf, which is where a lot of those heavy winds, I would imagine, are coming from right now. Another thing we noticed driving here all the way across on I-275, which is normally, as many of you know, if you commute or just drive across the county, it's usually a very, very busy interstate. We didn't see a single car on the road. Now, that's obviously a good thing. People should be hunkering down or out of here by now. And this entire area, St. Pete Beach, which as many people know at home, is a very, very popular, often crowded spot. There's no one to be found. It is a ghost town. It's actually quite eerie. You drive around, you don't see cars other than parked in higher parking lots, but other than that, it's completely empty. Almost every single home that we've seen so far is completely boarded up, but certainly more flooding in this area. I'm not quite sure about the elevation, if it's a lower elevation area, and that's why we're seeing more pooling and ponding of the floods, but something like this is going to happen more and more frequently. I'm sure that this is very mild as compared to what the kind of damage we will see over the next hour, day, 2 days or so, but already seen some damage here in the St. Pete Beach area, and I imagine that will continue to be the case as rain and wind continues to lash this area. Very exposed Gulf Coast right now. Residents are being allowed back in, or if you own a business in this area, they allowed us in to cover some of the damage. But so I just want people to know that at home, if you did live in some of the barrier islands, you can return to your home if you live there, show proof that you live there, or if you have business there. But right now, if you're somewhere else that's higher, safer, I would advise, just as someone who's on the ground right now, it's probably not the best place to be, guys.
Rogers has been everywhere giving us updates all morning long, now into the afternoon. A good time to remind folks at home, because we've been talking about power outages as well, a good time to download that free 10 Tampa Bay app, because that is where you can stay up to speed with all the updates we have, and it's a live stream option.
You said it earlier. I couldn't hear you because the producer was talking.
Sure.
You said survival is a team effort, and I think that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah. I said that because I'm sitting beside you. You're helping me survive this.
Well, I'm
You're helping all of us.
I'm trying to, but I think it was worth reiterating because we're all here. We're all in this together. We're going to get through this together.
Yes,
we want to bring back in Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins here to help guide us through this next leg, Bobby.
Yeah, guys, you think where he just was, we've already seen some downed trees, some damage already. The winds are actually going to pick up for us later this afternoon and tonight. So we're not going to see terrible winds, but easily 50s and 60s with some gusts even a little bit higher than that are on the way for us, generally out of the north and the northeast. I want to start with the radar again here. See how it's been moving through. So basically when a storm makes landfall, technically it's the center. And the center is very close to doing that. It's probably going to be up near Captiva, okay, right in that area. Grant, you want to go ahead and zoom in down to Fort Myers Beach area. So when we were looking at the surge forecast yesterday, one of the highest is for this area right here. That's Fort Myers Beach, right? That was one of the highest. It appears, unfortunately, that it has verified. We have seen video we're trying to get for you of literally, we heard that we had water up to the top of a single-story house, right? All across the island. We actually have seen video now of a single-story house floating down the street. So it has picked it up off the foundation. That's the eye wall pushing the water right up on the Fort Myers Beach, which is right there. And that's a good 8 to 12 foot of storm surge that we've seen on video. So we know we have that. That is moving to the northeast like this. They're going to get the back side of it. They're not done. They still have to get this here. Eventually they're going to get this here. And because of the way that they're located, this is going to be just as bad as this comes through. You see how we've got the orange here? That's reflectivity. That's showing you some of the heavier rain, but there's heavier winds in there as well, too. So I'm afraid things are going to get worse there before they actually get better. And as you heard one of the emergency managers say, hey, look, you know, you're in the eye. Sanibel right now is in the eye. So things have really calmed down. But all of this has to come back through the area over the next couple of hours. And what has happened is the front side of the eye went through there. And what it didn't knock down, it weakened. And so then when the back side comes through, and now that wind's blowing in the opposite direction over weakened trees and things like that, then things really start to fall. So yeah, you get a lot of damage on the leading edge there, but you also tend to see a whole lot of damage and even more power outages on the back side of an eye, because now you've got really high winds blowing over stuff that has already been halfway damaged. Now, this is a look at it now. It's moving to the north-northeast at 9 miles per hour. Let's talk wind. There's the center. Obviously, you can see the purple area has the highest winds. Looking at the state, it's not terrible for most areas outside of that immediate area of southwest Florida. 26 mile per hour with gusts of 55 at Tampa International Airport. All right, closer look to it. We've got basically winds that are gusting in the 50s. We'll get more gusts in the 60s as the day wears on. And then I think those gusts will go 70s, even some 80s, especially as you get down here in Wauchula towards Arcadia and eastern parts of Manatee and Sarasota County. Well, there you are. Venice already gusting at 81 degrees, 81 miles per hour, and gusting to 72 miles per hour in Sarasota right now. That's a sustained wind of 55 miles per hour. That's almost a severe thunderstorm warning that you would get in the summertime for wind. A steady wind at that speed. Now, here's the forecast winds for Tampa over the next 12 hours. So you can see basically kind of getting into the 40s and staying there. This is sustained winds. Don't worry about dropping off. That's not going to happen. This is for tomorrow. We will start to come down. This is 11 a.m. on your Thursday, 1 p.m., 3 p.m. So the prime time for the Tampa area is going to be this afternoon, tonight, and the very first few hours after sunrise tomorrow morning. I think it's really going to be just before sunrise to see some of the heaviest. This is the forecast model for 9 o'clock. You can see the center is over DeSoto County just about. We've got gusts at that time forecast at St. Pete Beach to be around 70 miles per hour. Remember, this is moving from the north to northeast, so you think the bay is low now? You wait until higher winds get in here later tonight. Now, it's going to be dark. This is 9 o'clock. But the higher these winds go, the more it's pushing water out of the bay. So that's the negative surge that we're going to get. We had about I think it was 2.4 foot negative surge with Irma. Irma went right up the state, right over top of Lakeland. We've seen at least almost 3.5 foot of negative surge in parts of Tampa Bay. That will go even lower. We will set records with the amount of water that gets blown out of the bay as we get into tonight. This is one of the prime times for that to happen, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Gust to 85 in Sarasota at 9 o'clock. You see them coming down by about 3 in the morning. Everything is pretty much peaking around 9 to 3 a.m. tonight into tomorrow morning. And then as we get towards sunrise tomorrow, you see we've got winds in the 30s and 40s, gusts in the 50s, still out of the north-northeast for Pinellas, western Hillsborough, most of Pasco, Hernando, Citrus, and then eventually, and this is the only surge issue that we would be watching for, is when we start to see some of these winds blow back out of the north and northwest Thursday night. But by that time, they're really coming down, and so we just don't think we'll see much of a surge. And that surge would be on the beaches, okay, where the Gulf waters can get a little bit higher. Not concerned about that for the Tampa area very much at all. So then by the time we get towards Thursday night, things are really starting to quiet down. Now, peak wind gusts. This is what we've seen so far today. 60 in Tampa, 64 in St. Pete, 39, that's it in Plant City, 82 in Venice, 72 in Sarasota, just shy of hurricane-force wind gusts in Sarasota. You can see Sebring is not terrible yet, but Sebring, we're on that east side where we have the better chance for the tornadoes. Now, these are the wind gust forecasts through this afternoon. Let's go into this evening. You notice by 7 o'clock, the gusts are all into the 60s. Riverview close to 70s. Bradenton, the same thing. Upper 50s to near 60 out on the coast. And there's the center. You can see moving just through the middle of Hardy County. And then by the time we get towards 3 in the morning, look where the center went. It went from here right across Polk County, basically Lake Buena Vista. That's Disney, guys, right over top of them, almost. It looks like it now may go just to the south and east of it. But look at the gusts by about 3 in the morning. You can see they are starting to come down just a little bit. This model, to me, looks a little bit more likely. You see how that's got that north-northwest wind? That's late overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning. That's when you'll notice some higher tides along the coast, along the beaches. That's blowing water still pretty much out of the bay. We'll get a little bit of a surge over here in Apollo Beach down towards Palmetto, but I don't expect many issues with that. It would be a foot or two, if that. So I don't think that's going to be an issue for us. Now, this will all be clearing out, as I mentioned, as we go through your Thursday afternoon. Now, let's talk about wind in specific cities. So what we have here, this is the map, shows you where it's going to go, right, where that main core will be around that eye. And then you can see here, take a look at the cities. And I'll go ahead and stop the clock above my head here. It's 8 o'clock tonight. These are potential wind gusts. Mayaca City, Duet, Wauchula. You see some of those heavier numbers there. Then as we go through about 11 o'clock tonight, close to midnight, 63-mile-per-hour wind gusts possible in Wauchula. Notice as we wake up early in the morning tomorrow, we're looking at those wind gusts coming back down. So again, overnight tonight into the morning hours, one thing that happens with hurricanes is you get all of this wind here around the eye wall, and you get a lot of it like we've seen, gusting to 126 miles per hour. We've measured 155 out there. That's why it was that high. But it's concentrated. It's focused right there around the center. When that goes on shore, it weakens. And then what happens is the whole wind field gets bigger. It expands because it takes that energy that was the high energy around the center and weakens it but spreads it out. And so what you'll see is, watch the yellow on this map. You're just going to see it kind of blowing up like a balloon. Look at that. That is the storm weakening, believe it or not, but the wind field spreads out. So even as it's moving through the area, you're going to keep quite a bit of wind in here. This is overnight tonight, 2, 3 in the morning. That orange represents severe thunderstorm winds, essentially. So, and this is sustained winds is the possibility, kind of what I just showed you, right? But notice as we go through sunrise tomorrow morning, the I-75 corridor in west looks good. As we go through 10 in the morning, it's basically moving out of even the Orlando area, and then things will start to quiet back down. So a lot of wind to come through the area. So we're talking power outages and damage, and we're starting to see some of those trees down and things like that already. That is going to get worse. The power outages, which last time I heard, I think we were up to about 300,000 for the state. Is that right, Chris? Oh, he's giving me a thumbs up. It's getting higher than that. That will certainly go higher. A lot of that right now is obviously in this area where we have the highest winds, but when we're starting to see some here, even in Pinellas County, those are going to get even higher. Natalie.
We have a 3 p.m. advisory that just came in, and they're moments away from making landfall. We have an official report from the National Hurricane Center. Ian is about minutes away from landfall in southwestern Florida between Fort Myers Beach and Punta Gorda. It's about 20 miles offshore right now.
Okay, yep. Still 155-mile-per-hour winds being measured, and it looks like most of that is going to be right here on the back side of that. So imagine Fort Myers Beach, water's up to the roof already. That was the initial surge, and they're going to get another surge pushing in there in the next 30 minutes to about an hour and a half or so as that rotates through. It's just going to be, it's going to be devastating. It is, you know, we look at the Saffir-Simpson scale. You get to Cat 4, you get to Cat 5, you call it catastrophic. It's catastrophic down in Fort Myers, and I'm afraid Sanibel as well, too. This is moving to the north-northeast at 9 miles per hour. That movement hasn't changed too much. It's been moving northeast, north-northeast, but the speed is about the same as well, too, 9, 10 miles per hour. Look at that number. Gusts measured to 190 miles per hour by the Hurricane Center. Guys, that's amazing. I mean, we're used to seeing those out in the Caribbean, right, with those big storms out over the very warm waters. This is a highly populated area in southwest Florida. That is incredible. Pressure's down to 937. That's very low. That's one of the ways that we can tell just looking at lower pressure. We know it has a certain amount of wind potentially with it. All right, now, What's going to happen here is we're going to start to get those winds increasing, but we will also be watching for the rain to pick up. So keep that in mind. Hopefully, you know, I haven't seen too many people out and about today, and that's great, and we shouldn't tonight or tomorrow morning. This rain will begin to pick up. It will get heavier. We're watching these individual cells that you see out here. They have the best chance for producing tornadoes. All right, you can see we've got the tornado warning out to our east. We'll watch these cells. I don't see anything too tricky in there right now, but that is certainly a potential. We do have a tornado watch east of I-75. Rain right now that we have out there, it's just light, it's moderate rainfall. The wind is blowing, right? So certainly if you're outside, it just kind of gets you wet right away. But the heavier rain is still down to the south. This area right here, I-75, south of Sarasota is where the heaviest rain will be. And again, I think that flooding, the highest amounts, what could be as much as 20, 25 inches, will be right up along Sarasota, Manatee, Bartow, Lakeland, Lake Wales, Winter Haven. Right? We'll still get heavy rain to the west of that. Don't get me wrong. 8 to 12 inches, some areas even more than that. But those highest amounts are going to be right along that line. So, you know, we've been watching landfall. We've been seeing what's going on down to our south. For us here in the Tampa Bay area, we're just kind of starting to bring in all the conditions that are going to feel like a hurricane as we go through this afternoon and tonight.
And as we continue our coverage this afternoon, we're going to be picking up coverage from our morning anchors, of course, Caitlin Lockerbie, Frank Wiley, and Joshua Dorwitz, who have been with you throughout the duration, the last 12 hours or so. I'm Carolina Lead. I'm with Dave Wagner, Courtney Robinson as well with us this afternoon. We're going to keep you covered as we continue to track this hurricane.
Yeah, there's a whole lot going on, as Bobby mentioned, and it really spans a good portion of this state right now. We want to go to Jennifer Titus. She's down in Sarasota, where there's